Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing. Chapter 1, I am Busujima's stepbrother. Beep beep beep. Lifting my head, I stopped the alarm that tried to destroy my eardrums and opened my eyes. And as soon as I did so, I got confused. I hummed as I stared up at the ceiling, my arms folded behind my head as I lay down on my bed. The ceiling was a little gray, the white paint starting to peel and flake away, and the light fitting looked like it had seen better days too. My bed was a standard single, small and firm. The pillow was lumpy and the blankets were scratchy, but I had grown accustomed to that over the years and hardly even noticed it anymore. It should be that way, but this one was different. What I saw was a perfectly fine place with good condition. Pristine wall and soft mattress. Beside me, a naked girl slept soundly, her long hair a mess of tangles and knots. She was sprawled out, her arms wrapped around the pillow. She was beautiful and had large assets, but that didn't really matter to me. Right now, I was confused. She's Busujima Sako, right? I muttered to myself. I was referring to the girl sleeping beside me. She was the president of the school kendo club and a bit of a celebrity in school, being very beautiful and talented. But she's so different to how she's depicted in the anime. Not in a bad way. Rather, in a good way. Her beauty couldn't be properly drawn and her bust was slightly bigger than what I remembered. Again, that wasn't important right now. I didn't know why I was here. I didn't mean here sleeping next to Sako, but here in this place. After all, wasn't this inside a story? The story was about zombies, fights, and boobs. No, I need to concentrate and figure out what happened to me. I racked my brain for answers, but I couldn't think of anything. I remembered my life up until the last point. My last memories consisted of me attending a gun museum and there was an explosion. Then, I somehow woke up here in the world of HOTD. Hell, the name of the story should have been Bodo, Battle of the Apai. Anyway, I had a massive problem incoming. Namely zombie apocalypse and figuring out why I was here. But at that moment, the answer of my question came suddenly in a form of a mechanical voice. Ding. Unreliable choice system has been installed, make a choice and get a reward, apostrophe dot huh? I was stupefied for a moment before I regained my bearing. This wasn't the first time I had heard the name, after all. A system. It didn't end there. Multiple notifications rang in my head as memories and strange knowledge were forcefully implanted in my brain. Name, Busujima. Strength, 8, Agility, 7, Stamina, 10, Dexterity, 8 Skills, Busujima Swordsmanship, Beginner, Marksmanship, Intermediate, Shop Points, 0p, Shop will be unlocked after the zombie outbreak begins. Instantly, I understood everything thanks to the influx of memories and knowledge. I was an adopted son of the Busujima family, Sako's stepbrother. My name was Bki, a high school student and an apprentice of the Busujima sword style. And my marksmanship skill was probably from my previous life, as I was a gun avid and often hit the range with my buddies. With this sudden knowledge, I knew what was going on. I was reincarnated in this world. As the system had said, I was here to make choices and survive the zombie apocalypse. However, I wasn't too worried. I was a fan of the anime and I knew how the story progressed. At least until the author died and had no one to continue the story. That's right. This anime, or rather manga, ended in a cliffhanger. Not even a proper ending. At that moment, Sako stirred awake. She moaned slightly as she sat up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. She looked at me, and I looked at her, my mind blanking as I stared at her naked body. Based on my new memories, we always slept together like this, so I should have gotten used to it, but this surprised me because I was caught off guard. Seeing my reaction, she smiled mischievously and said, "Good morning, Bki. What are you looking at?" Just when I was about to answer, the system window popped up. Make your choice, 1. Say good morning back. Reward, 5 shop points, 2. Joke around and say your boobs. Reward, 10 shop points plus 1 agility, 3. Be honest and kiss her. Reward, 20 shop points plus 1 all stats. I blinked in surprise, then sighed as I realized what this system was. Right, it's the typical choice system. Of course it would be like this. After all, there was no such thing as a free lunch. Everything had its price, And if the system was going to give me a choice, there had to be a consequence for it. For example, what would happen if I chose to say her boobs? There was a chance she might hit me. Would I be able to survive her blow? No, of course not. If I had no prior memories of our relationship, I would definitely avoid it. However, "Good morning, Siko." I was mesmerized by her appearance. I said and kissed her cheek. It was a bit weird to me, but based on my memories, this was actually normal for us. We were very close siblings. Siko didn't seem to mind it. She even looked happy, smiling brightly and giggling. "You're so honest." "I'm glad, though. I like that about you." Ding. You have received 20 shop points plus 1 all stats. Well, that was easy. Chapter 2, New Daily Lives. What do you want for breakfast today? I'm feeling hungry and want to eat something delicious. Oh, you're making breakfast? She asked, her expression showing surprise. I nodded. Yeah. I feel like making something special. Any preferences? Something light is good. I will leave it to the chef's discretion. I smiled at her words and nodded my head. Sure, leave it to me. Yawning, I got out of bed and stretched my arms. I looked at the clock and realized that we only had 2 hours before school started. That should be enough time to cook, shower, get ready for the day, and collect information about the timeline to know when the zombie breakout will start. Wow, I am so nervous. Yet I also felt excited. Not surprising at all, me and Siko went to the same school. When we got there, we quickly separated, going to our respective classrooms. While we were in the same year, our classroom was different. I didn't know why, but I didn't think much of it. It wasn't like I could change it anyway. Now, I should start collecting information. The first thing I did was to listen to school rumors. What I wanted to know was whether the main heroine, Ray, had dated Hisashi or not. Finding out about it was pretty easy because she was famous for being pretty. They weren't dating yet. Which means there is still time before the zombie apocalypse. I had to make my moves then. Being killed immediately after I was reincarnated wasn't fun at all. I had to prepare myself. What kind of preparation should I make? That was clear. Let's get used to fighting. That was my first goal. I had to make myself familiar with fighting, especially sword fighting, to the point I was used to the feeling of cutting the flesh because I would need to kill a lot of zombies in the future. Thankfully, I was already learning Busujima-style swordsmanship from our father. However, it wasn't enough. Who? I have an idea on how to improve my skills. I had a system to help me. Why not use it? It could be reliable or unreliable, but I would have to try it out to find out. With a goal in mind, I went to my classroom to start my first day in my new world. The class was boring and the lessons were something I had learned already in my past life. So I just breezed through it until lunch. There were a few classmates who invited me to eat together, but I refused by saying that I promised Siko to eat together. And so, I left the classroom and headed to the school dojo, where my new sister should be meditating every day. Spending time eating the lunchbox we brought together in the dojo with Siko was pure bliss. Unexpectedly, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a really nice experience, sitting next to each other and talking while enjoying the food we brought. It was one of the most enjoyable moments in my life. The highlight of the day, especially since I would be dealing with the zombies soon. Gi, Asako said, and I opened my mouth obediently, taking a bite of the tamagoyaki from her chopsticks. It was sweet and fluffy, and it tasted amazing. The sweetness spread through my taste buds, and I couldn't help but grin. How is it? She asked with a cute smile. Really delicious. I replied honestly. I'm glad you made this for me. Foo-fa-foo, you already made breakfast so it's only natural for me to make lunch. She said with a smile. And I'm happy to see you are enjoying it. I grinned at her and nodded, taking another bite from her chopsticks. Thanks, sis. You're welcome. She replied and took a bite from the lunchbox, chewing on it with a satisfied expression. She then swallowed it down and gave me a teasing look, saying, Do you want to know the secret ingredient that I put inside? Is it message? I asked, raising an eyebrow. No, silly. It's love. Haha, that's really cheesy. Siko laughed, but you like it? Yeah, I like it. I smiled at her, and she smiled at me. It was a really nice moment. I would have loved to spend my life like this forever, but I knew that wasn't possible. After I finished lunch, I decided to ask Siko what I had in mind. Having a spar with her would help me train my sword skills. Hey Siko, I have a favor to ask. What is it, Gi? She tilted her head, looking at me with a curious gaze. Her eyes were shining with interest, and it made her look very cute. I was wondering if you could spar with me for a bit. I want to get better at sword fighting, and I think sparring with you would be a great way to learn. Hearing me, her eyes widened slightly. Surprised at my sudden request. But then she smiled brightly, nodding her head in agreement. Sure. I'm always happy to spar with you. But are you sure about this? You always wanted to skip training and just laze around in the dojo. Are you okay, Dki? Did something happen? Yes, something happened. I had a bad dream where a zombie outbreak happened, so I want to train to prepare myself. I said, but I didn't elaborate further. She gave me a concerned look, and then suddenly hugged my head, pulling me into her bosom. My breath suddenly stopped between two soft, yet firm mountains. I see, a bad dream, huh? It's okay now, I'm here for you, brother. She said in a soft, caring voice. HNN. Don't worry, you will be fine. Even though you're taller and bigger than me, you are such a softie. She misunderstood my intention. Hello, sis. I was choking here. I couldn't breathe. I was dying. I tried to get away but her grip was too strong. But her boobs are so soft. No, I need to get away now or I will die before a zombie could even bite me. In the end, I managed to push her away, gasping for air. Thankfully, I had recovered my breath, and I could feel the blood running through my veins again. Huff. Huff. I thought I would die. She laughed. I'm sorry, it's been a while since we hugged like that so I couldn't control my strength. Yeah, that's right. In the end, we didn't spar at lunch because the bell rang, so we headed to our class instead. I will train later. Chapter 3, Request After School. I quickly made my way home. Suko had her club activity and looked sad when she remembered our promise to spar. I assured her that we could do so at night when she returned. For now, I had time alone, so I began my own preparation. The most important thing was weapons. I would need guns, preferably handguns and assault rifles. With that, I would have no trouble killing zombies in close and long range. The problem was that I would need a license to buy a gun. However, I was confident that I could secure it easily. Who am I? Busujima family's son. We had connections and could secure it easier than most people. I had the locked system shop, so I still didn't know its content. Relying on something like that would be foolish of me. Let's ask father where I can get a gun. He might not cooperate with me, but I have no choice but to ask him now. Thinking so, I reached my room and grabbed the phone, calling him directly. Our family wasn't that close and he rarely returned home, so this was the fastest way to contact him. I told him about my plan to buy a gun and train with it. And as expected, he rejected my request. Don't waste your time with something like that. If you ask for a sword, then I will give you. However, guns are too lowly for a Busujima. Even so, I tried to ask for a handgun. My plan to get a rifle would be a lot harder, but at least I could still secure a handgun. A sword is a weapon to take a life. A gun is a tool to destroy a life. It is a weapon of a coward. We, Busujima, should not rely on such a tool. Understood, Dki? No, I didn't understand at all. However, pushing him right now would be unwise, so I just said, yes, father. Good. You may end the call now. I'm busy. Yeah. Sighing, I ended the call. It was as I had expected. Father hated guns with a passion. But I was told that I could take a sword in the warehouse, so that was at least something. Let's see what we have here. With that in mind, I headed to the warehouse. Inside, I could see many swords hanging on the walls. Father said I could take any sword that I liked. But which sword should I pick? I looked around, and I could see a few that caught my eye. There was a long sword with a curved blade, and a short, straight sword that looked like a wakizashi. The longer the better against zombies, I thought. But the longer the sword is, the harder it would be to move in a tight space. And a wakizashi was more effective against humans. But the thing that is trying to bite us is no longer human, so this thing is useless against them. In the end, I picked a long sword and unsheathed it. The blade was about 90 centimeters in length. When I held it, a familiar feeling coursed through my body. It felt like an extension of my arm and I could feel its weight, yet it was easy to swing. As someone who had swordsmanship skill, I instinctively knew this was a good sword. A close-range weapon, get. Now I just had to spar against Suko to know my limit. I am home. When the sun had completely set, Suko finally returned home. I was waiting for her in the dojo, sitting cross-legged on the floor. She entered when I closed my eyes, saying, "Sorry for the wait, Gi." Hearing that, I opened my eyes and looked at her. She was wearing GI, but her chest area was exposed due to her big boobs. The cleavage was clearly visible and sweat from her club activities made her GI stuck to her body tightly. Her hair was tied into a ponytail, and her expression showed determination. What a feast for my eyes. She was incredibly hot. "Are you alright?" she asked, her eyebrows furrowed and her eyes filled with worry. I smiled at her and said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm ready for our spar." She nodded her head and went to get her shine. We stood facing each other in the center of the dojo, and I took a deep breath before assuming a stance. We didn't need to wear protective gear in our house. Getting injured was something normal when we train. I could feel the adrenaline pumping in my veins, but my body was relaxed. My mind was calm, and I was focused on the task at hand. I was ready. The spar started. Our shine clashed and we exchanged blows. We moved around the dojo, our feet gliding across the wooden floors as we struck at each other. Right now, Suko was slightly exhausted from her club activity, but her movement was sharp. Her sword skills were incredible, and she was able to keep up with me despite being tired. Damn, she's good. I was having trouble keeping up with her. She was faster than me and more skilled. I couldn't land a single clean hit on her, and I knew that if she wasn't exhausted from her club activity, I wouldn't be able to hit her at all. If I could see her status, then her swordsmanship was probably intermediate or even advanced. Compared to my beginner one, she was a lot better. However, I didn't give up. I kept attacking her, trying to find an opening in her defense. She parried my blows and countered with her own. I dodged and blocked, trying to find an opportunity to land a hit. I swung my shine at her, and she deflected it. I didn't let up and attacked again, this time aiming for her side. I got you. Suko said as she blocked my attack and landed a clean blow on my stomach. My balance broke. Using this chance, she lunged forward and slammed her shine into my stomach, knocking the wind out of me. Then she straddled me, pushing her sword against my neck. It's my win, she said, smiling. Yeah. You're the winner, I replied, gasping for air. I thought I had you, but then you did that. I didn't expect it. You've improved a lot, Gi. I'm impressed. She complimented me, which made me smile. If it was anyone else, they would be defeated already. Unfortunately, I trained every day while you only practice on the weekend. Yeah. I know. Can you move away now? I sighed, and looked at her face. She was still on top of me, her chest pushed against mine. She smiled and said, You don't like it? I shook my head. No, it's not that I don't like it, but it's a bit embarrassing. We're in the dojo and our parents could walk in any minute. She pouted and said, They're overseas right now. We're the only ones in the house. And it's not the first time we do this. Why are you getting so embarrassed? Well, I'm not a kid anymore. I know. Even if you're not a kid anymore, I love you. She leaned forward and kissed me on the lips. It was a soft, sweet kiss that made my heart race. It lasted for a few seconds before she pulled back. I was stunned for a moment, then I said, I love you too, Suko. But now, I want to eat some dinner. She laughed, and said, All right, let's eat together. I'm hungry too. We stood up and left the dojo, heading towards the kitchen. Suko cooked dinner while I set the table. When we finished eating, we cleaned up and went to our room. The next day, I went to school, and the day after that, too. I kept doing the same thing every day. Going to school, eating lunch, and training in the dojo. It was a simple life, but I enjoyed it. No choices window popped up all this time, and I began to slack off slightly. However, after 3 days, there was a change. Chapter 4, a change. When I ate in the school cafeteria with Suko, I saw a girl with brown hair sitting with her friends. She was beautiful and had a nice style, her body curvy and slim, her face cute. There was no doubt about it. She was Miyamoto Rei, the heroine of the anime. And seeing her reminded me of the zombie outbreak that would happen in the future. I was too relaxed lately, slacking off in my preparation because of the peace I felt. I was a fool. Hey, what are you looking at? When I was lost in thought, my eyes met with Rei. She glared sharply at me, her cheeks slightly flushed while hiding her breasts behind her arms. She seemed to think that I was staring at her boobs. It was true that I did so for a second, but I quickly averted my gaze when I saw her face. At that moment, the notification I hadn't heard for 3 days finally popped out again. Make your choice. 1. Act cool and say nothing. Reward, 5 shop points plus 1 agility. 2. Say I'm looking at you, cutie. Reward, 10 shop points plus 1 stamina. 3. Say your breasts. Reward, 30 shop points plus 1 all stats. I gulped. Can you be any more unreliable, you fucking system? What will happen if I choose the third option? While I panicked inside, my expression remained calm and collected. I looked at Rei, and she was still glaring at me, waiting for my answer. To be honest, I already made a choice. So I smiled at her and said, nothing. I wasn't a man who would risk getting hit by a woman in public just to gain a bit of reward. Ding. You have received 5 shop points plus 1 agility. Rei didn't seem satisfied by my answer. She got up and walked towards me. When she reached me, she slammed the table with both hands, saying, Are you sure you're not looking at my breasts? Then what were you looking at? My face? Aren't you too self-conscious? Tsuko asked, raising an eyebrow. What do you mean? Ray asked, confused. Tsuko sighed, and said, why would he look at you, Junior, when he has a sister as beautiful as me? Oh God, sis. Please stop talking. You're not helping the situation. Ray blushed and said, what the hell do you mean by that, Senior? Are you bragging or something? No, of course not. Tsuko replied with a devilish smile. It's the truth. My brother would never stare at your breasts, because he has seen much better ones. Ugh, that's gross. Ray said, looking disgusted. She stormed away, leaving me and Tsuko alone to join a man with gray hair. I sighed and shook my head, looking at Tsuko who was smiling at me. Sis, please don't do that again. Do what? She asked, tilting her head. I sighed again, you know what I meant. Don't worry, Gi. I'm just messing around with her. She laughed. Of course she just messed around with her. Behind her usual cold expression, a devil who loved to torment others lurked. But really, I'm glad you're not interested in her. Indeed. Miyamoto was the main heroine of the series and a girl who would bring a lot of trouble to a man. She looked cute and innocent, but she was a ticking bomb for a man. If I chose to get close to her, my peaceful school life would end. Personally, I didn't like her. Whether it was me from the previous world or me in this world, I knew her bad sides, so I would let the protagonist deal with her himself. I wanted to enjoy this life as much as possible before the zombie apocalypse started. In the end, the system didn't bother me again after that. It seemed to only show up when it had a choice for me, and even then, the choices were random. Still, the reward was generous. I could feel the growth of my body and skills after the system helped me. I could swing a sword easier, my stamina was higher, my reflexes were better, and my mind was clearer. If this continued, I would be able to survive the apocalypse without much effort. Looking at my reflection in the mirror, I admired my new body. It was lean, muscular, and toned. My shoulders were broad, and my arms were thick. I was a hunk. Let's check my status now. Name, Busujima strength, 10, agility, 10, stamina, 12, dexterity, 9 skills, Busujima swordsmanship, beginner, marksmanship, intermediate, shop points, 25p, everything increased significantly. It seemed like my status also increased from training and daily life. The system just made it a lot faster. I was happy with the result. However, there were still problems I had to solve. One of them was a weapon. I had a sword, but no gun. My current shooting skill was still better than my swordsmanship, so it would be better if I could get my hands on a gun. But how? Asking father was impossible. I had tried it once, but I failed. Maybe I should ask a yakuza. No, that was a stupid idea. I was just a high schooler, and they wouldn't sell me a gun. If they did, they would probably charge me an exorbitant price. Not to mention, it was dangerous. They could kidnap and sell me. Wait, that's it. My thoughts came to a halt. Why didn't I realize this earlier? The solution was so easy and simple. The school's nurse, Shizuka, had a friend who loved guns. She was a police officer and owned several firearms. If I could get close to her and ask her to help me, I would be able to get a gun without any problem. Let's meet her tomorrow and make a request. I nodded to myself. It was already late at night now. It would be better to wait until morning before I visited the school again. Creak, my door opened and Tsuko came in. She was wearing nothing but a loose t-shirt, which barely covered her thighs, and thongs. Her hair was wet, and her skin glistened with water. She looked so hot, and I couldn't take my eyes off of her. I was mesmerized by her beauty, and I couldn't move a muscle until she pushed me down, pressing her breasts against my chest. Let's sleep. Somehow I want to cuddle with you tonight. Sure. I didn't know why she wanted to do so, but it wasn't the first time she asked for a hug, so I obliged. She lay down beside me and put her arm around my waist, pulling me close to her. Our bodies were pressed together, and I could feel her warm breath on my neck. We fell asleep while cuddling in each other's arms. Chapter 5, Unreliable Choice. In the morning, I went to school alone. Tsuko already went ahead because she had her morning training. A nice change of pace for me, especially since I usually had to wake her up and accompany her to school. On the way to school, a few girls looked at me. I wasn't sure if they liked what they saw or not. When I arrived at the gate, I saw Ray and the boy standing together. They were close to each other, giggling and talking about something. The boy had gray hair, someone I recognized as Hisashi, Ray's boyfriend as well as Takashi's best friend. They are dating now. Well, that wasn't good. Only a few days were left before the zombie apocalypse. We were running out of time. Damn. Why am I panicking? I should be calm. Zombies are weak, so there's no need to panic. I took a deep breath and calmed myself down. After that, I walked to my classroom. On the way there, a few students greeted me. I smiled and greeted them back. This school didn't allow us to bring our own cell phone, but I always made sure to bring one. I also made Zuko always bring hers so we could communicate immediately if we needed it. Because I had plans for today's lunch, namely visiting the infirmary to get closer to the airhead but sexy nurse, I didn't go to the dojo to eat with Zuko. Should I just visit the infirmary after I finish lunch? No, let's go right now. After pondering for a moment, I stood up and headed to the infirmary. When I reached there, I saw Shizuka Marikawa lying down on the bed, sleeping. Her shirt was hugging her voluptuous figure, her chest which was even bigger than Zuko rising and falling in time with her breathing. Her hair was disheveled, and her face was peaceful. She looked like a goddess. I approached her and sat down next to her, looking at her face. She was still asleep, and I was tempted to touch her face. But I resisted the urge and woke her up instead. Miss Shizuka, wake up. I shook her body gently. It's me, Busujima. Huh? Who's there? She asked, opening her eyes. Good afternoon, miss. Before I could finish, the choices appeared in my mind. Make your choice. 1. Tell her you have a stomachache. Reward, 5 shop points. 2. Flirt with her with cheesy lines. Reward, 10 shop points. 3. Tell her you want her to suck your cock. Reward, 20 shop points plus 1 stamina. Fucking hell. What the fuck is this? This is too sudden. And why are the rewards for the third choice so small for such a risky choice? For such strange choices, I expected more. But the third choice was too much. I didn't want to die young by getting killed by her police friend. Shit, I need to choose now or she would think I'm a creepy stalker. While I panicked, Shizuka smiled, and said, Gay, it's you. What's wrong? Do you have a stomachache again? You often have it, you know. Upon hearing her words, I realized that I spaced out. How rude. Then, I quickly made a decision. I will pick the second option. With that in mind, I chuckled and scratched my cheek. Ha, yes. Actually, I wanted to ask for stomachache medicine, but seeing you sleeping peacefully like this made me forget my problem. Huh? Shizuka tilted her head to the side, her mouth slightly open and her eyes wide in confusion. Meanwhile, I felt like I would die inside. I was so embarrassed, I wanted to run away. Fuck this system. Fuck it to hell. What the hell is it making me say? I am so embarrassed with my lines. Ding. You have received 10 shop points. Oh yes, thank you. But fuck you. I could see Shizuka's confused face and I was about to lose it. However, before I could do anything else, she held my hands worriedly and pushed herself against my chest. Her boobs were soft and warm, and her face was red. Are you alright? Are you sick or something? This is actually working? I didn't know what to say. I was at a loss for words. Right, she was a ditzy nurse. She even asked a student's name when that student was attacked by zombies, showing her ditziness. Not only that, she was also slow to react when it came to danger. Despite that, she was kind and smart, knowing many medical knowledge. In the series, she would always get worried if someone was injured and help them. Hey, are you really alright? She asked again. I'm fine. I was just messing around, haha. I laughed awkwardly. But I do need a stomachache medicine. Can you give me some? She sighed. You should just tell me if you have a stomachache, not joking around like that. Sorry. But I'm really in pain. She then stood up, went to her cabinet to take medicine and gave it to me. She said, I'm not mad at you or anything. Just take it and feel better. Thank you. Can I also lay down for a few minutes, miss? I don't feel good at all. Yes. Please take care of your health more, alright? Nodding my head, I drank the medicine and went to the bed, sitting down. Shizuka went to her table to work on her computer. She didn't even notice that I stared at her. How do I strike up a conversation about guns with her? Should I just ask her directly about her friend? I didn't have any other ideas, so I decided to ask her directly. Miss, I heard you have a friend who's a police officer. Do you know whether they have a gun or not? She turned to me, looking surprised. A gun? What do you mean? She asked, tilting her head to the side. To be honest, I am interested in guns and wanted to learn how to use them. Of course, for sports only. I said. I heard police officers usually have one, and I was wondering if your friend can teach me how to use it. Shizuka put a finger on her chin, thinking. After a few seconds, she nodded and smiled at me. I think I can arrange something for you. Rika is a nice girl, she should agree with me. I will call her after school, okay? Now please rest. Yes, thank you very much. I replied, feeling happy and excited. It seemed like everything was going well for me now. I got closer to the nurse and got an opportunity to learn about firearms from a real police officer. In my previous world, something like this wouldn't work at all. But because Miss Shizuka was a ditz and Rika was a gun maniac, I could achieve this goal of mine. Yeah, sorry. I will be back before 11. I talked to Suko on the phone, telling her I would be late to our training session. After promising her that I wouldn't skip it, I hung up and looked to my right. Right now, I was in Miss Shizuka's car, going toward her friend's house to introduce myself and learn more about firearms. She hummed while driving and sometimes made a mistake when approaching a red light. To be honest, I am worried she might crash her car into something. After 10 minutes of driving, she stopped in front of a luxurious apartment. A Humvee was parked behind a tall fence. My new house was big and had good security, but this area was even more so. Rika lives here, Shizuka said. I already called her, so she should show up soon. Nodding my head, we got out of the car and walked toward the door. We rang the bell, and a woman appeared from the door. She was wearing a white cropped shirt that showed her belly and a black shorts. Her hair was tied in a ponytail and she was wearing sunglasses. The woman in front of me was Minami Rika, a police officer and an expert sniper. Her waist was slender but filled with muscles at the right place. She had long legs and her skin was tanned. She was hot, no doubt about that. And more importantly, she got guns. Yo, Shizuka. And who is this kid? Rika asked with her hand on her hips. This is a student from my school, Gi. He said he's interested in guns. Shizuka answered, pointing at me. I bowed down and said, hello, my name is Busujima Gi, nice to meet you, Miss Minami. Busujima? Could it be you or a relative of the family with the same name? The swordsmanship style one? Rika asked with a smile on her face. Yes, miss. The one you referred to might be my father. He said he trained some police in swordsmanship before. I answered, scratching my cheek. I see. So, you are his son. Anyway, let's get inside. We can't talk about guns in public. I only invited you in because Shizuka requested it. And just call me Rika. Yes. I replied and entered the house. Chapter 6. Too soon the house was big and had many rooms. I could smell the scent of floral and citrus, which probably came from the candles and scented oils. There were also a lot of pictures hanging on the wall, most of which were of Rika and Shizuka. It seemed like they had a lot of good memories together. We sat down on the couch, and Rika joined us. So, what do you want to know about guns, kid? She asked, taking off her sunglasses. Her brown eyes looked straight at me with a judging gaze. As expected of a sniper, her gaze was sharp, but it didn't faze me at all. After all, I had experienced much more intense gazes from Siko when she was angry. Well, first of all, I just want to know more about guns in general and how to handle them. If possible, I would like to get a license too. I explained. Interesting. What is your reason for wanting a license? She asked, leaning forward. Her eyes were twinkling in excitement. She loved talking about guns, I was sure. I chuckled and answered, I'm not sure. I think I just like the idea of having more experience to protect myself in case of an emergency. Who knows if a zombie apocalypse will happen? Being prepared is important, you know. Rika nodded her head, understanding what I meant. She then said, I like that answer. I will teach you the basics, so pay attention. Thank you very much, miss. And so, we started a lecture. Rika taught me how to operate guns and boring stuff I already knew. Then, she taught me about her favorite rifle and the difference between the ones in Japan and overseas. I already knew most of them, so I joined the conversation in excitement. I shared my knowledge with her, making her eyes twinkle like a kid in a candy shop. Wow, your knowledge about firearms is very vast, Gi. I didn't expect you to be this knowledgeable about rifles and handguns. Rika complimented me with sparkling eyes. Indeed. I'm surprised too. Shizuka said, smiling. It seemed like I went too far. As an avid gun lover in my past life, talking with Miss Rika seemed to excite me to the point of revealing too many things. Let's change the topic. I don't want to get any suspicion. So I smiled sheepishly and said, I read a lot about guns, so I guess it stuck with me. By the way, where do you usually practice your shooting, Miss Rika? Some ranges. She said, in fact, I will hit the range tomorrow. You see, I always go on weekends to keep my skills sharp. If you want, I can bring you with me. Yes. Sure. Can I? I asked, smiling. I would like to try shooting a gun someday. Of course. She laughed and turned to Shizuka. Hey, Shizuka. The kid you bring is interesting. I didn't expect to meet someone who has such an interest in firearms. I'm glad to have him here. Really? That's great. I'm happy that I introduced him to you. She smiled at Rika and patted my head. You did well, Gi. I'm proud of you. Following that, we talked for a bit more until the sun started to set. I checked my watch and saw it was time for me to leave. I needed to go home soon or Siko would be mad. So, I stood up and said, well, I think it's time for me to go now. Thank you for your hospitality, Miss Rika. See you tomorrow. Sure. She nodded her head. I will pick you up tomorrow. Let's exchange phone numbers. Yes, thank you very much. I replied. After exchanging phone numbers with her, I left her house and returned home alone. Miss Rika didn't want Shizuka to leave just yet, so she asked her to stay. When I arrived home, I found Siko in the garden, practicing her swordsmanship. She was wearing her gi and hikama, and her face was full of sweat. Sorry, I'm late. I was at my friend's house. Siko turned to me and sighed. Her face was red and her chest was heaving up and down. Sweat was dripping from her forehead, and her eyes were tired. Really? You must have a good reason to skip training. She said, her voice low. I do have a good reason. I replied, smiling. I will tell you after our training session. Can we start? She nodded and grabbed her shinai. I followed suit, and we began our practice. After doing it for a while, I had gotten used to her style and movements. I was able to land a few hits on her, which was a great improvement. But there. I got you. I got hit by her again, making my stomach ache. She was still better than me. Damn, I need to train more. In the end, I only managed to win once in our 3 rounds spar. You've improved a lot. She complimented me while breathing heavily. Thanks, sis. You too. I replied, giving her a thumbs up. Having been able to fight Siko on almost even ground, I was confident I would survive against a zombie. After showering and changing our clothes, Siko slept almost immediately while I looked at the calendar. I had no chance to explain stuff to her. If my guess was right, then the zombie apocalypse should happen soon. And I was surprised by how soon that was. Rika, sorry, but I can't hit the range today because I have a sudden call from my higher-up. Be a good boy and read this for now, okay? Early in the morning, I got a message from Miss Rika and frowned. A sudden call from her higher-up, which meant she would be away from the city. Oh shit. A curse escaped my lips at the realization that the time had arrived. Miyamoto Rei had dated Hisashi and Rika went away because of duty. Connecting both dots together, it was clear that the zombie apocalypse would start in 2 days, on Monday morning. Crap. Breathe. I had to calm down. Should I tell Siko about this? No, she would think I was crazy. And even if I told her, what would I say? I had no evidence, no proof that a zombie outbreak would happen. I could only trust my memories. Just like always, when I was confused and it was time to make a choice, the system appeared. Make your choice. 1. Tell Siko the truth about the zombie apocalypse. Reward, 10 shop points plus 1 dexterity. 2. Don't tell her anything. It might just be a false alarm. Reward, 15 shop points plus 1 agility. 3. Just go to school as usual. You will deal with the problem when it happens. Reward, 50 shop points plus 2 all stats. The reward was small, and the choice was ridiculous. I didn't know if I should laugh or cry. Only the third and the most dangerous choice had the best reward. And I had no choice but to pick it. There are too many characters I need to gather to survive in the apocalypse. A doctor, a sharpshooter, and the others. I needed a team to survive. And I had to eliminate some people that could become trouble in the future in the middle of confusion. So I had to head to school anyway. As for telling Siko, I could do that without the reward. Which means I can only do that after the third choice reward was given to me. But that doesn't mean I can't hint to her about anything. She's smart, so she will notice it. With that in mind, I headed to the bathroom to wash my face, and then made breakfast. Today was Saturday, so we didn't have school. We could train in the dojo all day if we wanted. Good morning, brother. Siko stirred awake and greeted me, her hair disheveled and her eyes half closed. Good morning, sis. I replied, smiling. Breakfast is ready. I'll wash my face first. She went to the bathroom to wash her face, and when she came back, we ate together. According to our routine, we would train after this. However, I had a different plan. Hey, Siko, how about we go to the mall today? I suggested. Chapter 7, Preparation. Siko raised an eyebrow and asked, why the sudden suggestion? We usually spend the weekend at home. And you also mentioned that your friend would pick you up today. Why do you suddenly want to go out? That friend suddenly got a call from their boss and was unable to come. Also, we have been training so hard lately, we deserve a little break. I don't know. Just for today. Please, Tsuko? She stared at me with her piercing gaze for a moment. Then, she shrugged and sighed. Fine, I guess having a date with my brother once in a while is not bad. She said. But you're paying. Of course, sis. I'm the one inviting you. She nodded her head and started to eat her breakfast again. I did the same, feeling satisfied. After we finished, we went to the mall immediately. At first, I followed Tsuko to buy some clothes that she liked. Some of them were for me too. Then, I revealed the reason why I was here. To stock for supply. Stocking food? Why? Tsuko asked. Just in case we need it later. I replied, avoiding eye contact. You see, the news said that the virus from overseas will arrive here soon. It's better to be safe than sorry. I'm not worried about that. But why are you buying so much? Are you planning to live in a bunker or something? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Better safe than sorry. What if something like a pandemic happened? I heard the virus spread faster than one in the past. So, I'm planning to buy some supplies now, just in case. I see. That sounds reasonable. But why are you so worried about this? Tsuko asked, looking at me suspiciously. I have a bad dream. I said that with a smile and continued walking. Let's go. She didn't reply and just followed behind me without saying anything else. Yeah, I can't tell you the truth. The reward for the third choice is too good and too precious for now. But you realized something's wrong, no? We continued our shopping, and I bought some food and water, as well as other necessities. I also bought several survival kits and camping gear, and a lot of tools. All of these would be sent to our house later and I planned to make a barricade with them. My money decreased so fast that I almost regretted it. But no, this was important preparation. Tsuko was silent the whole time, looking at me with a curious expression. However, she didn't say anything else and just kept quiet. I didn't know what was on her mind, but I hoped she wouldn't get mad at me for buying so much stuff. After we finished our shopping, we returned home and continued our usual lives. Until Monday arrived. It was time to go to school. Ding. You have received 50 shop points plus 2 all stats. Welp, here we are. See you at lunch. I waved my hand towards Tsuko, who went to her classroom. Usually, I would go to my own classroom by now, but not today. I needed to check some things. So I sneaked onto the school's rooftop where I could see everything and hid my sword in case the outbreak happened today. Going to the roof was the fastest way to confirm my suspicion and confirm the truth of the apocalypse. But it was also risky because I would have no escape route. I hope I made the right decision. There was no point in thinking about that now, though. The only thing I could do was wait for the inevitable to happen. If the zombies came, they would come. If not, I would have a good laugh and continue with my life with Tsuko, maybe even get a girlfriend in the future. I waited for a few moments, watching the school and the area around it. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Until I heard a sound behind me. Huh? I turned around and saw a boy who looked surprised to see me here. He looked terrible and tired, his eyes were slightly hidden by his dark hair. He had a tall body and slender figure. Not too thin and not too muscular. You're? Takashi, the protagonist. The fact he was here meant he skipped a class. And that could only mean one thing. This is the D-Day. I thought as I looked at him. As I was lost in thought, he asked me with a surprised expression, senior. Why are you here? Maybe because it was my first meeting with the protagonist, the choices appeared in front of me again. Make your choice. 1. Ignore him and look for any suspicious things. Reward, 10 shop points. 2. Ask back why he's here and mock his answer. Reward, 15 shop points. 3. Tell him you're a pervert who loves to watch girls' panties in the gym class. Reward, 30 shop points. No status increment? Seriously? The rewards were also small for such a strange choice. Sigh, the system is unreliable as usual. If I choose number 3, he would think I am a pervert, no? I decided to choose number 1 and ignore him. The choice wasn't really hard for me because I would do it even if there was no system. Ding. You have received 10 shop points, TSK, silence, huh? I could hear him click his tongue, but I didn't turn around to face him. Instead, I kept looking at the gate, scanning for any suspicious activity. As expected, it didn't take long for something to happen. Takashi also noticed it and looked at the gate. A man approached the gate with a limp and fell to his knees, coughing up blood. His eyes were empty and white, his mouth filled with blood. Is that guy sick or something? Takashi asked, raising an eyebrow. I didn't answer and just kept staring at the scene. 3 teachers approached the gate and confronted the man. They tried to help him stand up, but suddenly, the man bit one of the teacher's hands, ripping the flesh and eating it. Ah! A loud scream echoed. What the hell? Takashi exclaimed, his eyes wide open. I could see it all clearly. The blood, the gore, the screams, the panic. It was real. This was not a dream. My heart beat faster as I watched the scene unfold. The outbreak had begun. Chapter 8, Outbreak. Seeing it, I narrowed my eyes and turned around while saying, "Go get your friends and escape the school quickly. Something bad will happen soon." I had no bad blood against Takashi. In fact, he would also be a great help for survival. So I decided to give him some advice. But I won't tell him the truth. If he is the same as the protagonist in the anime, then he should be able to survive. I wouldn't tell him that the man who bit the teacher was a zombie. He would soon find out about it anyway. And the story would go on the same route if I didn't interfere. Meanwhile, he looked at me with wide eyes. He seemed surprised and scared by what just happened. However, he calmed down quickly and nodded his head. "Yeah. Be careful," he said before running downstairs. Yeah, no need to worry about me. I turned back to see what was going on and saw that the 3 teachers who were bitten fell to the ground. Only a few minutes were left before they would turn into zombies. I took a deep breath and calmed myself down. Then, I opened my status page and checked my stats again. Name, Busujima. Strength, 13, Agility, 13, Stamina, 15, Dexterity, 12 Skills, Busujima. Swordsmanship, Intermediate, Marksmanship, Intermediate, Shop Points, 95p. A smile crept on my face. I am confident I can survive this. Taking the sword I hid near the roof, I sprinted toward Class 3A where Siko was. There was still time until the full outbreak. I planned to get her and Miss Shizuka out of this situation before the school became a mess. Along the way, I saw the teachers who got bitten already turned through the window. Their eyes were white and blank, their bodies covered with bite marks. They were advancing toward this building where sounds could be heard. They were attracted to noises. I quickened my steps. The situation was getting worse by the minute, and I knew I needed to hurry. My phone buzzed in my pocket, getting a message from someone. But I ignored it and ran. Before long, I arrived at Siko's class and opened the door roughly. Everyone turned at me, looking confused. I ignored them and met gazes with Siko, whose eyes widened upon seeing the sword in my hand. "Hey, you can't interrupt the class. Take your wooden sword and let's go. It's an emergency." I interrupted the teacher's words and talked to Siko. She looked surprised, but she didn't say anything and stood up, grabbing her wooden sword that was leaning on the wall. The teacher looked at us with a frown. "Hey, what are you doing?" "Please excuse me, sensei. There's an emergency," Siko said to the teacher. "We'll be leaving for now." After a bow, she followed me out of the classroom. As we went, I heard the teacher yelling from behind, but we ignored him. "What's happening?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I took out my phone and read the message I received earlier. It was from Miss Rika. "Rika, can I count on you to protect Shizuka? Are you a prophet? I can't explain it, but you will understand soon. Feel free to use any guns in my house. She should know the passcode. Take care." As I had expected, she was calling about the zombie outbreak. As a police officer, she surely got information faster than me. Make your choice. 1. Follow Rika's request and protect Marikawa Shizuka. Reward, 10 shop points. 2. Leave the school with Siko and leave Shizuka behind. Reward, 100 shop points. 3. Kill everyone in sight and leave alone. Reward, 1000 shop points plus 50 all stats. What a ridiculous choice. Fuck you. I chose number 1 without hesitation. Shizuka was an important character and I needed her. Doctor was necessary in an apocalypse like this for someone with no medical knowledge like me. Ding. You have received 10 shop points. After making a choice, I answered Siko. A murder happened in the front gate. For some reason, the victim died with just 1 bite and then moved again to attack others. It's a dangerous situation, so we need to leave as soon as possible. I pointed to her to look out the window and she saw it too. Smoke rose from the city, and she could see fires burning here and there. Reanimated corpses walked toward this building and attacked the teachers who came out to investigate the noise. The victims got bitten, and soon enough, they were on the same side as the ones who attacked them. This is... She trailed off. "Let's go," I said, grabbing her arm. "We don't have time." She nodded her head and followed me to the infirmary. We had to get the airheaded but sexy nurse out of this situation as soon as possible. We ran through the first floor hallway, and I could hear noise from the speaker. "All students, attention. An attack has happened in the school." Hearing the announcement, I realized I had no time left. Fortunately, I had arrived at the infirmary. I banged the door open, and found Miss Shizuka sitting alone. "Miss Shizuka," I called out. "We need to leave the school immediately." Shizuka looked at me with a confused face. She looked at my sword, and then at Sako's wooden sword. Her face showed confusion. Leave the school? What are you talking about? She asked. It's an emergency. Let's take the school bus and leave immediately. You will understand what's going on when we're outside. I replied. She looked at me with a thoughtful expression. But what a difficult to handle person. Her sense of danger was so low. At that moment, the choice appeared again. Make your choice. 1. Threaten her with your sword and force her to come. Reward, 10 shop points. 2. Explain that if she didn't come with us, she would die a horrible death. Reward, 15 shop points. 3. Ignore her and leave the school alone. Reward, 100 shop points. I was really pissed. This fucking system was pushing me to my limits. However, it helped me to make a quick decision. Without hesitation, I chose number 2. Listen, miss. I said. If you don't want to die a horrible death, you better come with us. Miss Rika has instructed me to keep you safe and leave the school with you. That's why I need you to come with me. Oh. She nodded her head. If Rika asked you to, then I have no other choice. Let's go, then. Ding. You have received 15 shop points. The choices were really useful. If I chose the wrong one, it would take longer for me to convince her. But with the right one, I was able to persuade her easily. As I was about to leave, suddenly another notification rang. Outbreak has begun. Shop is open, use it to survive. At the same time, screams echoed everywhere. Kaya. Arg. The outbreak has started in earnest. Chapter 9, Saving Miss Shizuka. The zombies were attacking the school and everyone in sight, including the students and teachers. People were screaming and running away from them. Getting outside was too dangerous now. I exchanged glances with Sako and she immediately understood what I meant. We moved immediately, locking the door and barricading it with whatever furniture was in the room. Huh, we aren't leaving? Miss Shizuka asked, tilting her head. I thought we were in a hurry. Change of plans, miss. I replied. We're staying here until everything calms down. Or after everyone died. I only mumbled that part to myself, not wanting to scare the nurse. Sako looked at me and said, what do we do now? We have to protect ourselves. If these people break in, we'll kill them. But for now, let's just hide here and wait for the right time to move. I replied. Hurried footsteps could be heard coming towards us. However, they just passed by without entering the infirmary. Some tried to enter but noticed the locked door. They left without a second thought, probably looking for another place to hide or escape from. What should I do now? Miss Shizuka asked, crossing one arm under her huge breast and holding her cheek with another, her eyes blinking in confusion. I need to get used to it. How could he survive for so long in the series with this kind of act? Just stay here. We'll handle everything. I replied. Also, please don't make any noise. If they are similar to the zombies in the movies, then they should be attracted to noise. Okay. I will behave. She replied, sitting on the chair. Oh, how about I make tea for all of us? I facepalmed. Could she be any more ditzy? Well, at least she wasn't panicking. If she panicked, I might not be able to calm her down. She was a grown-up woman, after all. Her panic would be hard to handle. Hey, brother. Sako suddenly said. Did you know about this beforehand? Is that why you were acting strange yesterday? Well, she's sharp. I thought for a moment and decided to tell the truth, or a part of it, at least. I trusted Sako. Yes, I heard something about this when I called father. But I wasn't sure about it until now. I didn't tell you because it was classified information. I see. So that's why you were stocking supplies. She said, nodding her head. That's so unfair of you. Sorry. But you have to believe me when I say that I didn't know about the details until today. I replied. She sighed. All right. I'll forgive you this time, but the next time, please tell me. Got it, sis? Now that she knew about the truth, I was relieved. It would make it easier for us to cooperate. We waited for a few minutes inside the infirmary. I closed all the curtains, keeping the people outside from noticing us. Silence penetrated the room and Miss Shizuka started to get fidgety. Suddenly, a scream could be heard. Kaya. Following that, the infirmary's windows suddenly shattered as two bodies fell in and rolled around on the floor. Kaya. Miss Shizuka freaked out and jumped. Help. A student, pinned by a female zombie, asked for help. Sako immediately moved toward the fallen student and swung her wooden sword. Crash. With that sound, the zombie fell down and stopped moving. Meanwhile, I approached the student who was pinned by the zombie. He was still alive, but a bite mark could be seen on his neck. Blood flowed down from the wound, and his skin turned pale. Student. Sako said, looking at him. Why yes? You will turn soon. Say, do you want to be killed as a zombie or do you want to die as a human? Tsuko asked. Her face was emotionless, and she looked cold. What are you saying? He's still alive. Miss Shizuka interjected. I can save him. Just give him to me and I will help him. No, miss. I said, stopping him. The bite will infect him with a virus. Even if you save him, he will turn into a zombie later. There is no cure. What? Then what should we do? She asked, looking at me. We can only put him out of his misery. I replied. But that's... The student suddenly screamed and grabbed his neck. He writhed on the floor, screaming and groaning. He was slowly turning into a zombie. Kill me. PP please. Kill me. Miss Shizuka gasped in surprise but didn't react much. Meanwhile, Tsuko put on a stance with her wooden sword in hand. Goodbye. She swung her wooden sword down and hit the boy's head. Thud. The boy's head was destroyed, blood sprayed around, and he died instantly. I noticed her lips curled upward slightly as she wiped the blood from her wooden sword and looked at me. Now what? She asked. I looked at the broken window and noticed the infected began to walk toward us. The noise from earlier attracted them. There is no choice. We have to run. I replied. Miss Shizuka, are you ready? Yeah. I am ready. She pumped her fists in front of her chest, causing them to jiggle slightly. Nodding, I began to give out orders. Tsuko, lead the way. I will cover our backs. Understood. She nodded her head and led the way, running out of the infirmary. Miss Shizuka followed her, and then, I trailed behind them. Many infected stood in the hallway, but Tsuko beat the ones who tried to block our way. I also helped her by making sure they were dead. Living students were also around, screaming in panic as they ran away from the infected. Some of them even tried to help us, but they were soon overwhelmed by the infected and ended up becoming their meal. Ah! The school bus. Miss Shizuka shouted, pointing at the parking lot. Chapter 10, leaving turning to the direction she pointed at, I saw the school bus was still parked, surrounded by a horde of zombies and some living students. There were 3 of them, 2 boys and 1 girl. From their appearance, I recognized them as the delinquent group. The girl was Yukimiku, the bitch who slept around for her safety, one of the bastard teacher's sex slaves. And the other 2 were the delinquent students. Upon seeing us, they shouted for help, help us. Please. The delinquent students were trying to fend off the infected, while Miko was standing behind them. Her face was filled with desperation. As we came closer to the bus, I saw the delinquents getting overwhelmed by the infected, their arms bitten and torn apart. Help. Miko screamed and ran to the bus, trying to open the door without much result. It was locked. Realizing that, color disappeared from her face. She looked at us with tears in her eyes. Help me, please. Looking at her, the choices appeared again. Make your choice. 1. Open the door and take the bitch with you. Reward, 10 shop points. 2. Wait and let her get bitten by zombies. Reward, 20 shop points. 3. Kill all the zombies around the bus and leave. Reward, 50 shop points. This time, the choice was easy. Tsuko, we need no baggage. I told her, and she understood what I meant. Understood. She replied and began to attack the infected on our way. Her swordsmanship was swift and brutal. Every strike was aimed at the head or the neck, and she never hesitated to finish off her enemies. I supported her by killing the infected on the other side. Meanwhile, Miko was left alone by the delinquents and attacked by the infected. And no, stop. Help me. Her face was bitten and torn off. I ignored her scream and focused on the task I had. Unsheathing my sword, I rushed toward the delinquent zombies and cut their heads off, ending them permanently. Change, Tsuko. I said, gesturing to her to protect Miss Shizuka. She was tired from fighting the infected. Then, I stepped forward and swung my sword at the horde of zombies, killing them in a flash. In just a few seconds, I finished them all. Their corpses littered on the ground, leaving only the bitch that now turned into a zombie. With a swift swing, I decapitated her. The last thing I saw was her zombified, disfigured face. Let's go. I said, looking back at Tsuko and Miss Shizuka. Miss Shizuka looked at the corpse blankly. As expected, she was a ditz but not someone who would panic at a situation like this. Meanwhile, Tsuko asked a more rational question. Aren't the bus doors locked? How do we open it? I know where the keys are. Miss Shizuka answered, putting her finger on her cheek. All keys are put in the teacher's office. The bus key should be there too. There is no need. I fished something from my pocket. A clunking sound could be heard from the keyring I took out. Is that the bus key? Tsuko asked, raising an eyebrow. How did you get it? I am a bit paranoid, you see? So I took it yesterday when no one was around. I replied. Let's get in and drive out of here. They nodded in agreement and followed my lead. I opened the door, checked for infected, and signaled them to enter. After confirming that no infected were around, I got in and sat beside Siko while Miss Shizuka sat on the driver's seat. She started the engine and drove the bus out of the parking lot. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To Miss Rika's apartment," I replied, leaning on the back of the chair. "She told me that there are guns in her house. So I think we can use that to protect ourselves." "Ah. That makes sense." She nodded her head and drove in the right direction. "Then let's get going." I sat down next to Siko and leaned back. We had escaped safely. Ding. You have received 50 shop points. Back in the school, Kamuro Takashi and his friends managed to run away before panic ensued. He, alongside Rei, Hisashi, Saya, and Kata, were now in a safe place. They hid inside an abandoned house, waiting for the zombies to go away. However, something was wrong. Hisashi was bitten by a zombie and was now bleeding on his arm. He was sitting on the floor, holding his wound, and looking pale. He was sweating heavily, and his breathing was labored. "Hisashi, are you alright?" Takashi asked, kneeling down in front of him. He knew that his best friend wasn't okay. Hisashi looked at him with a weak smile on his face. "Yeah. It seems this is it for me, Takashi." "What are you talking about?" Rei shouted, holding her boyfriend's shoulder. Tears were streaming down her face. "You're going to be fine, right?" Hisashi didn't reply. He only smiled and looked at Takashi. "Can you do me a favor?" he asked. "Please end my suffering." Takashi was silent, looking at his best friend. He didn't say anything, but his expression was sad. He didn't want Hisashi to die like this. But at the same time, he understood what Hisashi meant. If he didn't do anything, Hisashi would die painfully, or even worse, he would turn into one of the zombies. "No. Hisashi, you won't turn into them. You're special, right? Special people won't get infected." Rei shouted, holding her boyfriend's shoulder. Tears were streaming down her face. "You'll be fine, right?" Hisashi didn't reply. Instead, he just smiled and looked at Takashi again. "Takashi. I understand," Takashi said. He stood up and raised a baseball club he was carrying. Seeing what he was about to do, Rei suddenly stood up and blocked his way. "Stop. What are you doing? Get out of the way, Rei. Hisashi is dying," he shouted back. His voice was filled with anger. "No. He's not dying, he's just tired. He's not dying, he's not dying." She kept shouting, refusing to accept reality. She refused to believe that her boyfriend was going to die. At that moment, Hisashi was convulsing. He slowly turned into a zombie. "Move away, Rei," Takashi ordered. His voice was cold, and his expression was serious. He didn't hesitate anymore. He had to end his friend's suffering. "No. No. 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 No." Rei screamed, her eyes wide open. She was still in denial, refusing to accept that her boyfriend was dead. I know. You're just jealous, aren't you? You're jealous I dated him and now you want to kill him." Takashi gritted his teeth and couldn't respond. He felt a bit guilty, but he knew that this had to be done. Hisashi was dead, and he had to finish him off. "See, I am right, aren't I? You're jealous of him and want to grrr." Her words were interrupted by the zombie Hisashi. He growled and grabbed Rei, pulling her closer to him. He opened his mouth wide, ready to bite her. No. Zap. A nail suddenly pierced Hisashi's head, killing him instantly. "Hisashi!" Rei screamed, trying to push away the corpse of her boyfriend. However, Takashi stopped her and pulled her away from him. Kata lowered his homemade nail gun and said, "I'm sorry, but I had to do that." "Why, you bastard!" Rei screamed, her eyes were red from crying. "How dare you kill Hisashi? I will never forgive you." Kato was silent. He knew that she was just lashing out in grief. He didn't blame her for that. In fact, he felt sorry for her. But at the same time, he couldn't let her get eaten by a zombie either. So he did what had to be done. However, Saya wouldn't let that go. The pink-haired genius girl clicked her teeth and grabbed Rei's collar, lifting her up. "You ungrateful stupid bitch!" she yelled. "The fetus saved your life. What are you screaming at him? Your voice will bring more of them here. Are you stupid, you stupid idiot?" As usual, she always calls other people stupid despite being a smart person herself. Rei was unable to say anything. Rather than crying and screaming, "Think about how we can leave. We need to think of a way out," Saya shouted. She then dropped Rei on the floor and crossed her arms. "Honestly, what is wrong with you, stupid?" Rei was silent, her eyes were still red from crying. She didn't respond to Saya's words, she just sat there and cried silently. Saya sighed at the sight. Then, she looked at Takashi and Kata. We have to leave soon and go to my house. We have a tall hall and a fence. We will be safe there. Also, my father should be home, he is a government agent. He should know what to do. Takashi and Kata looked at each other and nodded. Alright, let's go. Takashi said. He looked at Rei, who crumpled on the floor. Are you going with us or not? He asked, looking at her. She glared at him and muttered. Murderer. Seeing she wasn't willing to go together, Takashi immediately turned around and left with Sai and Kata. However, before they could even step outside, Rei suddenly stood up and shouted. Wait. Let me come with you. She ran toward Takashi and hugged him. Sorry. I am sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Please don't leave me. Takashi sighed. It's all right. I understand what you mean. Come on, let's go together. Chapter 11, System Shop. After we drove outside for a few minutes, crashed into some zombies, we encountered trouble. The bridge. It's closed. Shizuka said, looking at the barrier blocking their way. She sighed. We can't cross like this. There are too many vehicles in front of us, we can't even turn around. Right, the bridge was closed. Our bus couldn't cross the bridge with everything blocked. There was also a man-made wall on the bridge to block people from entering. And as a result, zombies gathered there. We can't use the bus anymore. Suko said, looking out of the window, I think it's better to go on foot from here on out. I nodded in agreement. Yeah, we should walk to Rika's house. It's not that far from here. Okay. Let's get going. Shizuka said, parking the bus near a building and turning off the engine. She got out of the bus and stretched her arms, causing her boobs to jiggle. Suko and I looked at her in surprise and then each other before nodding in agreement. We both knew what to do, and we wouldn't waste time. I unsheathed my katana while Suko prepared her wooden sword. We stepped outside of the bus and began to clear a path for Shizuka. There were quite a lot of zombies blocking our way. Thankfully, though, they weren't very fast. Take care of the two on the right. I'll take the others. I said to Suko. Got it. She nodded, and we immediately separated. I took care of the ones on the left while she handled those on the right. We worked in sync, killing the zombies quickly without any problems. The zombies didn't even get a chance to attack us. Soon enough, we cleared out all the zombies around the bus. Miss Shizuka, be careful. I said as we walked through the street, looking around carefully. If you see a zombie, don't scream. We will take care of it quietly. Okay. She replied cheerfully, walking down the bus. However, due to some miracle or something else in the work, she tripped on her skirt and fell on her face. Her panties were visible to us, but we didn't comment on that. Are you alright, miss? I asked. Why yes, I'm fine. She replied, getting up and dusting herself off. Suko silently approached her and crouched. Your skirt isn't appropriate for running. Please excuse me. Suko said before ripping her skirt, creating a deep slit that revealed her purple thong. Hey, this is a branded skirt. Shizuka complained. However, she immediately closed her mouth upon noticing Suko's silent gaze. Alright, survival is the most important. She said, nodding to herself. I sighed and continued walking with them. Crossing this river would be the hardest part of our journey, and we needed to be careful. After looking around, I noticed the area was infested in zombies. Swimming across would also be impossible due to the strong current and the zombies. If we got bitten in the water, we wouldn't be able to fight back. Then the only choice is. I looked at the man-made barrier on top of the bridge. If we went on the barrier, then we could pass through the bridge easily. However, there were some zombies blocking our way. If it were only me and Suko, we might be able to manage breaking through them. But with Shizuka, the chance was low. What should I do? Was there something useful that could take the zombies' attention away or scatter them? Maybe there is something useful in the shop system. So far, I was so focused on escaping that I hadn't had the time to check the shop. I had 170 points from my previous choices. Brother, what are you doing? Suko asked. Wait a minute. I replied. I opened my status and pressed the shop point secretly. Just as I thought, the way to open the shop was like this. A menu that reminded me of an online shop popped in front of me. Judging from Suko and Miss Shizuka's reaction, they couldn't see this menu. It seemed like only I could see this. There were various weapons and items listed on the menu. Shop points, 170 points, welcome to shop, guns, Walther P22 semi-automatic pistol, costs 50 shop points, Benelli M4 semi-automatic shotgun, costs 150 shop points, AK-47 assault rifle, costs 300 shop points, M4A1 assault rifle, costs 350 shop points, ammunitions, 100 rounds of 9mm bullets, costs 25 shop points, 100 rounds of 5.56mm bullets, costs 35 shop points. 100 rounds of 7.62mm bullets, costs 45 shop points. 5 rounds of .50 caliber bullets, costs 50 shop points. Equipment, Kevlar vest, costs 150 shop points. Anti-bite sleeves, costs 200 shop points. Flashbang grenade, costs 25 shop points. Hand grenade, costs 50 shop points. Special items, zombie serum, costs 5,000 shop points. My jaw dropped upon seeing the price. They were too expensive. Handguns started from 50 shop points and the AOs around 25 shop points, while the rifles took 300 shop points. I tried to check for a sniper rifle, but the price was similar to an assault rifle. Shotgun was half of the rifle, but it was still too much. I won't be able to afford them right now. The system is seriously unreliable. Though it is also a very useful aid to help me survive. The equipment was also expensive, so I couldn't buy any of them either. Even though I was a little bit disappointed, I still need something from it. Flashbang. This will create a sound loud enough to gather zombies. I'd prefer a normal hand grenade, but it's too expensive. I can afford 2 flashbangs for one of them. Right now my goal wasn't killing the zombies but passing the bridge. So I swiftly bought 2 flashbangs, hiding them under my clothes. Then, I pretended to take one of them out and showed them to Siko. This will help us gather the zombies. Once I throw it, we need to run toward the bridge and pass the barricade. No need to fight them, I said, looking at both of them. Shizuka nodded. I got it. Siko looked at it curiously, her eyes full of questions. But she didn't voice her curiosity and only nodded. Understood. Alright, let's go. We will cross the bridge safely. With that, I led the 3 of us toward the bridge. We moved slowly to ensure we created no sound and dodged the infected as much as possible. When we couldn't advance anymore, I nodded at both of them and pulled the flashbang's pin. I had 2 seconds to throw it before it exploded. I used all my strength to throw the flashbang as far away as possible from us. It flew through the air and landed about 20 meters behind us. Then, there was a blinding flash and a loud bang. Bang. Run. Chapter 12, Squeeze for Reward. At that moment, the horde of zombies turned to the direction of the explosion and began to walk toward it. And at the same time, we started running. We passed them and approached the barricade. I unsheathed my sword and cut the zombies whom we couldn't avoid. Siko did the same. Once we reached the barricade, I climbed over the fence and looked at Miss Shizuka, offering my hand. Come here. She nodded and grabbed my hand. With a tug, I helped her climb over the fence. Thank you. She thanked me with a smile, and her boobs jiggled. I nodded and helped Siko to climb over the fence as well. She stumbled when she reached the top and I caught her, her chest pressed against my arm. We locked our eyes and she smiled mischievously. You can squeeze them if you like it. Make your choice. 1. You're in danger and can't afford to do that. Reward, 10 shop points. 2. You know what? Why not? Squeeze them. Reward, 30 shop points. 3. Kiss her deeply while squeezing her boobs from under her clothes. Reward, 50 shop points plus 1 stamina. The system tried to fuck with me again. But this time, I stopped and thought about it for a second. The items in the shop were all expensive, bordering on ridiculous. Even a single handgun cost 50 points, and I couldn't afford it. But the choices gave me a lot of points. And I could get 50 points if I followed the third choice. With that amount, I could buy 2 flashbangs for emergencies or other items like a first aid kit. Hence, I hesitated a little but immediately decided. Humphrey. Third choice all the way. I pushed my lips against her and moved my hand inside her clothes, squeezing her breast directly. They were big, soft, and squishy. I could feel her hard nipple between my fingers as I fondled them. My tongue pushed inside her mouth and danced together with hers. She let out a soft, muffled moan. Ding. You have received 50 shop points plus 1 stamina. Meanwhile, Miss Shizuka looked at us with a surprised expression and covered her eyes. What? She peeked between her fingers and blushed. Why, you shouldn't do that in public. So that was her problem. I thought she would say that we shouldn't do it because we were siblings, albeit not related by blood. Or because we weren't alone. After a few seconds, I broke off the kiss and looked at Siko's blushed face. Let's run for now, I said, letting go of her breast and looking at the approaching zombies. She nodded and fixed her clothes as if nothing happened. Yes, let's go. And so, we continued running, jumping over the barricade, and running across the bridge. We crossed the bridge in no time and arrived at the safe zone. While there were zombies in sight, their numbers weren't as much as before. They were easy to handle. It's just after that right turn. Miss Shizuka, breathing heavily from running too much. We should be able to see it from here. Just as she said that, a house came into view. It was a familiar house with a tall fence and a Humvee parked in the front. A large wall was also built on the outside, blocking the entrance to the house. Miss Shizuka took out a key from her pocket, most probably to open the gate. Knowing her relationship with Miss Rika, it was obvious that they were more than just a friend. Unfortunately, some zombies appeared from beyond the stairs. They were the former residents who were bitten and reanimated. So the safe house is beyond this place? Tsuko asked. She swung her sword, a grin crept onto her face. Yeah. Let's kill the zombies and go inside. I said, pulling out my sword. I will go to the right. Understood. Tsuko replied. Then I'll open the gate. Miss Shizuka shouted, running toward the gate and taking out a key from her pocket. Ah, wait, a zombie suddenly blocked her way, causing her to shriek in fear. I quickly kicked the zombie aside and stabbed it in the head. Kaya. Oh my god, I almost died. She exclaimed, her hands shaking. Thank you for saving me, Gi. No problem. I replied, looking at the house's direction. But be careful. There are zombies around here. Why yes. She nodded and went back to open the gate with a terrified expression. Once the gate was unlocked, she immediately opened it and entered, followed by Tsuko and me. We moved past some houses before arriving at Rika's place. As Miss Shizuka had the key to the place, we immediately entered and locked the door behind us before sighing in relief. Huff. With this, we will be safe. Miss Shizuka sighed in relief, putting her hand on her chest. At that moment, she realized something and frowned. I looked at her worriedly. Is there something wrong? Tsuko asked, thinking the same thing as I was. In response to her question, Miss Shizuka looked at us seriously and said, we are so dirty. We should take a bath. At that unexpectedly serious simple problem, we laughed out loud. Tsuko hummed happily as she washed her body thoroughly. Surprisingly, this house had a large bath that was enough for more than 2 people to fit in. The bathroom was spacious and clean, with a large mirror on one wall and a shower head hanging from the ceiling. Miss Shizuka was sitting on a chair, brushing her hair and cleaning herself up. Both women didn't show any sign of embarrassment being naked together. Rather, Tsuko was rather proud. She looked at her reflection after washing herself. Her toned abs yet slim waist, ample breasts, long legs, and soft butt. All of them were perfect, and she knew it. Yes, they were perfect, yet the nurse had a more erotic body. She looked at the blonde's body, her breasts that were bigger than hers, her curvy hips, her slim legs, and her round ass. They were all a feast for men's eyes. Shizuka noticed her gaze and turned to her with a smile. Is there something wrong, Tsuko? No, nothing. Tsuko replied, shaking her head. She didn't want to make the woman misunderstand and think that she was slightly envious of her. Through the day, she noticed how her brother's gaze sometimes stopped at the nurse's outworldly breasts. Even though she was also pretty, her boobs were slightly smaller than the nurse's. It made her slightly insecure and envious. Still, she had confidence in her beauty and body. As proof, her brother was unable to hold himself earlier and reciprocate her advance by fondling her breasts. She understood that it was because of the moment, the tension and the danger, that made her brother unable to resist his urge. She also understood that the reason why he was holding himself before was because he didn't want to ruin their sibling relationship. But now, there is nothing to stop us. He, I know what you're thinking. Shizuka suddenly spoke, her voice was filled with amusement. Tsuko looked at her in surprise. What do you mean? You want me to help you wash your back? The nurse suddenly said, her eyes twinkling with amusement. Yes. Tsuko nodded in agreement, accepting the help without much question. That would be a great help. Chapter 13, Small Reward. Tsuko then walked to the nurse and sat in front of her, showing her back. As Shizuka began to wash Tsuko's back, the latter closed her eyes and enjoyed the sensation. The nurse's hand was gentle and delicate. However, she also noticed something else. The nurse was trembling. Miss Shizuka? Tsuko spoke up, looking at her over the shoulder. The nurse was startled by her voice, and she looked away in embarrassment. Sorry, I was just thinking about something. Tsuko raised an eyebrow. Like what? Stopping her movement, Shizuka looked down and clenched the towel she used to wipe Tsuko's back. To be honest, I am a bit scared. She finally confessed. Rika isn't here and those infected suddenly appeared. What if I got bitten? Would I end up like them? Tsuko was silent. I'm not strong like you and Ki. I don't think I'll be able to survive. The nurse continued, tears falling from her eyes. I can't do this alone. Please, protect me. Tsuko was surprised. She didn't expect the blonde nurse to be this weak. From what she saw in the school, she thought the nurse was strong. But she was wrong. In reality, the nurse was just as weak as any other woman. If not for her, she would have been killed by those monsters. Tsuko didn't know how to comfort her, so she stayed silent. Instead, she turned around and hugged the nurse. She gently patted her head as she hugged her. "It's okay. Gay is kind, he will help you. I will also help you, so don't worry." Shizuka sniffed and nodded, hugging her back. After a few moments, they separated and looked at each other. "Thank you," Shizuka said, her eyes red from crying. "You're a good girl, Tsuko. I am an adult, not a child." He, I know. You even kissed your brother so deeply." Shizuka teased, her usual smile returning. Tsuko blushed and looked away, embarrassed. "That was just a spur of the moment. I wanted to make sure that he was okay." Of course, Shizuka replied with a giggle, continuing to clean Tsuko's back. "I won't bother you tonight and sleep on the couch. At least I can do a night watch for you. So use the bed. It's big enough for two." Tsuko blushed and looked at her angrily, embarrassed by the nurse's words. While the girls were taking a bath, I went ahead and looked at my phone. The signal was gone, and there was no connection. The internet and the network were gone. I planned to contact Miss Rika to tell her my next plan and ask for her help, but I guess that's impossible now. I sighed, turning off my phone. Miss Rika was in the self-defense force. She would be busy handling the situation in the airport and wouldn't come back to the city anytime soon. I opened the system's status. Name, Busujima. Strength, 14, Agility, 14, Stamina, 17, Dexterity, 12 Skills, Busujima. Swordsmanship, Intermediate, Marksmanship, Intermediate, Shop Points, 170p, everything increased by 1 except for Stamina, which increased by 2 from the reward earlier. I nodded in satisfaction. For me, Stamina was the most important stat. I could use guns or tricks to kill the zombie, but Stamina would help me survive in the long run. My short-term goal was survival and then exploring the world to try and look for a cure. The series ended prematurely, so I was left to my own devices to figure out what to do next. Going to Takagi Mansion after this would be a good move. Not only did they have supplies, they also had security. They could probably hold out for a while. Also, Takagi Saya would make a good companion. I liked her in the anime because she was smart. Even in the worst situation, she would be able to think the way out. Although she was a mama girl sometimes, she was a good girl and had the most common sense. Unlike Rei, who was stupid enough to blame other people for their mistakes, Saya took responsibility and tried to find a way out. I really liked her character, and I hope that she would survive even without my help. Takashi and Kata are with her, so she would manage even without Tsuko. So my next action was decided. I wanted to meet with Takagi Suichiro, Saya's father, as well as my father's apprentice at one point before electromagnetic pulse reached Japan. His leadership would be needed to rally people to survive and rebuild the society. But for now, if I am not wrong, I should press something around here. I was rummaging through Rika's bedroom to find the place where she stored her guns. Using my memories as a guide, I tried to find the metal locker that she would use to hide the weapons. Ah, here it is. The locker was locked, but that wasn't a problem for me. I took out a bobby pin from my pocket and began to fiddle with it. It didn't take long for me to unlock the locker, and inside it, I found ammunition and the weapon I was searching for. A grin crept onto my face as my nerdy instinct flared up. Springfield M1A1. 20 rounds semi-automatic rifle. Oh my fucking god, I never thought I would get to see this thing in real life. My eyes sparkled in excitement, looking at the rifle in my hands. The rifle was a beauty, perfectly maintained. It had wooden furniture and looked exactly like the ones I saw in the movie. It was a civilian version, which was the issued weapon for the U.S. military. Also, a modified R-10, a Barnett Wildcat crossbow, and Ithaca M37 riot shotgun. Everything is here as well as the ammunition. This is awesome. I took the rifle, checking for its weight while moving it around. Then I took another gun and began to try them all. After being satisfied, I sat down on the floor and began to prepare. Many empty magazines were in the locker, so I quickly loaded all the magazines for all the guns with bullets. In total, I got 8 by 27.62mm AUs, which I separated into 2 magazines for M1A1 and R10, totaling 160 bullets. For the shotgun, I found 50 slugs. And there were also 20 arrows for the crossbow. This should be enough to last us for a while. I plan to use both R10 and M1A1. As for the shotgun, Tsuko could probably handle it. And the crossbow would be useful for when we need to be stealthy, so let's leave it to Miss Shizuka. The magazines and the guns were lined up nicely, fueling satisfaction for my inner nerd. I'm ready to conquer the world. I shouted in excitement. I couldn't wait to go outside and try the weapons. The guns were heavy and powerful, and the crossbow was just plain awesome. I put them all away to a safe place. But before I finished tidying them up, the door opened and Tsuko stepped inside. Her body was only hidden by the towel she held in her arms. Water dripped from her hair, flowing down her neck to her chest. A few droplets of water fell from her nipple and slid down her flat stomach to her thighs. "What are you shouting about?" she asked, looking at the gun in my hand. "Are those guns? Did you find them here?" "Yeah," I replied, closing the locker and stood up, putting the M1A1 and R10 I planned to use later on the table. "Have you finished taking a bath?" "Indeed. Also I finished too." Miss Shizuka appeared from behind Siko and jumped at me. Surprised, I unconsciously tried to dodge, but the blonde woman managed to hug me anyway. Her huge breasts, only hidden by a towel, pressed against me as she stole my lips. Chapter 14, Goes Crazy Goes Big? My eyes widened in surprise. Her tongue invaded my mouth, entangling with mine. Her hand grabbed my hair, preventing me from breaking away. Soft moans escaped her lips as she continued to kiss me, her tongue dancing in my mouth. After a few seconds, she broke the kiss and smiled at me, her eyes half-lidded. "That's the reward for saving me. I hope you liked it," she said, licking her lips seductively. I was silent. I couldn't help but be mesmerized by her beauty. She was a goddess. "By the way," she said, her voice soft, "I've already told Siko that I wouldn't disturb you tonight. So feel free to use the bed and the night." With that, she turned around and left. She swayed her hips seductively, showing off her perfect ass. "What?" I was confused, looking at Siko. She crouched down and crawled at me. "Brother, the world has gone crazy," she said, looking up at me with a smile. "Who know what will happen to us? They are infected outside, waiting for their chance to attack us. I might not have a chance to say this to you anymore." She stood up and hugged me tightly. Our faces got so close together. Our bodies entangled, and she pushed herself against me. The towel covering her body was loose and fell to the floor. Her breasts pressed against my chest, and I could feel her nipples poking into my skin. "I love you, brother," she confessed. "I've always loved you. You are the only one for me. I don't want anyone else." With that confession, she kissed me on the lips, pushing her tongue into my mouth. I didn't resist and kissed her back. After a long kiss, I pulled away from her and looked into her eyes. I could see the love and desire in them. Then, "Make your choice." A fucking unreliable system appeared again. 1. "She's your sister, you shouldn't do this. Stop her." Reward, 5 shop points. 2. Reciprocate her confession and fuck her senseless. Reward, 50 shop points plus 1 stamina. 3. Make it more fun. The more the merrier. Fuck your stepsister together with your teacher. Reward, 150 shop points plus 1 all stats. The third option was crazy and stupid. "Are you thinking of another woman right now?" Siko's seductive voice brought my attention to her. "Is it Miss Shizuka?" She was pouting, but her eyes were twinkling with amusement. "Are you thinking about fucking her right now?" she whispered, kissing my neck and biting my ear. "She's indeed sexy. Her breasts are bigger than mine, her ass is more plump and her skin is white. Like a devil, she seduced me to pick the third choice. I understand that. It's alright, I don't mind. You can use the bed, and I will go to sleep in the living room," she said. "Miss Shizuka is all yours. Feel free to go to her." She looked disappointed that she had to leave earlier. I stayed silent, not replying to her words. "Unless you want to fuck both of us at the same time," she continued, her voice full of seduction. "It would make me happy if you did that. I can't imagine how happy it will be." "Are you sure?" I asked, looking at her face. "Yes." She nodded. "I want you to be happy. If you are happy, then I am happy." "So, what are you going to do, brother?" she asked again. I looked at her and made my choice. When I went to the living room, I found Miss Shizuka lying on the sofa, her legs spread apart. The towel covering her body was a mess, and her hand reached into the opening, playing with her pussy. "NHNN. MMM." She moaned softly, her eyes closed and her mouth open. She was completely focused on pleasuring herself, unaware of her surroundings. HNN. Deedke's big cock entered Siko's pussy. Ah. I stood still, watching her play with her pussy. Her fingers moved in and out of her pussy, and her moans got louder and louder. MMM. An. Siko's big boobs jiggle as Deedke fuck her. "So good. Miss Shizuka, you're a naughty teacher." I spoke up, walking toward her. "Do you want me to help you with that?" Huh? Deedke?" She suddenly woke up and looked at me in shock. She raised her body and looked at me without hiding anything. What's the matter? Weren't you with Siko?" she asked, her face red from embarrassment. She was clearly aroused and wet but tried so hard to look normal. "Siko is waiting in the bedroom. We are waiting for you," I replied. She blinked at me. "For me?" Yes, for you. I nodded and approached her, caressing her thighs. Still sensitive from masturbating, she moaned softly and bit her lips, looking at me with lustful eyes. Didn't you want to join us? I asked, moving my hand closer to her pink pussy. I can make you feel better than this. She moaned as I inserted my fingers into her wet hole. I. Just nod your yes if you want to do it with us. I continued to finger her, rubbing her clit with my other hand. And shake your head if you don't want to. I. She moaned, unable to speak. You like it, right? I asked, fingering her faster. You want to be fucked, don't you? She didn't respond, her eyes rolled to the back of her head as she moaned loudly, her hips shaking uncontrollably. Do you want me to fuck you? I repeated, pulling my hand away and moving it toward her face. You just need to nod your head. She stared at my fingers that were covered with her juice. Her mouth opened wide, and I inserted my fingers into her mouth. She licked them, tasting her own juices. And then she nodded. Good girl. I praised, taking my fingers out of her mouth. Let's go then. I helped her to get up and carried her to the bedroom. Once I entered, I saw Sako already laying on the bed, naked and ready for me. Her towel was on the floor, and her legs were spread wide, inviting me to come between them. Oh my. She smiled at us, her eyes on Miss Shizuka's body. I see you have finally arrived, Miss Shizuka. Chapter 15, Too Big I am sorry, I shouldn't. She stuttered in my arms, trying to move. Don't be sorry. I gently lay Miss Shizuka next to Sako. Seeing two beautiful and sexy women in bed together was a sight to behold. I leaned in and kissed Miss Shizuka deeply, making her moan into my mouth. After a while, I broke away and turned to Sako, kissing her as well. I moved my hand to Sako's breasts, caressing them gently while kissing her deeply. As I did that, Miss Shizuka sat down and pushed her breasts against my back. Her nipples poked my back as she rubbed her breasts on me. Then, her hand moved to my crotch and started to stroke my manhood. The pleasure of being sandwiched between two beautiful women was something I never experienced before. Sako's soft and big breasts and Miss Shizuka's plump and huge breasts. One was in my hands while two were pressing against my back. While being sandwiched between two girls, I broke off the kiss and moved to Sako's breast, sucking them. A seductive moan escaped Sako's mouth, and I continued to suck her breast, savoring the taste. Miss Shizuka's moans were also very arousing. The sensation was incredible. I could feel my cock getting harder and harder, and Miss Shizuka noticed that. Her hands moved to my pants and pulled them down, freeing my erect member. It poked Sako's thigh and my sister looked at it in amazement. It's so big and thick. So different from before. She commented, her eyes full of lust. Miss Shizuka also looked at my member, which could easily reach Sako's stomach. Her eyes widened in shock and desire. You're too big. She commented, reaching out and stroking it slowly. I never saw someone as big as you before. Not even in porn videos. Is it not to your liking? I asked. Of course not. She shook her head and moved to her knees. It's perfect. I love it. The nurse lay beside Sako, playing with her clit as if inviting me. Come here. She smiled seductively, her hand moving faster on my member. Brother. Sako also called me. Gulping, I moved toward Sako and positioned myself between her legs. She was already wet and ready for me. This would be the first time for both of us, so I was going to be gentle. As for Miss Shizuka. She moaned when my fingers entered her pussy again, making her squirm and arch her back. She was already wet and ready for me too. Are you ready, sis? I asked. She nodded and smiled at me. Do it. Make me yours, brother. I nodded and pushed my member into her opening, penetrating her folds. The feeling was amazing, and I could feel her warmth enveloping my member. Sako moaned, arching her back. Her body trembled as she felt the pleasure of having a cock inside her. It's in. Why your big cock is inside me. She cried out, her eyes rolled to the back of her head. She had a look of pure ecstasy on her face, and her hips were moving by themselves. I smiled at her and began to move my hips, slowly at first, and then faster. Her insides were tight and warm, and it felt amazing. At the same time, I fingered Miss Shizuka faster, making her moan louder and louder. Deepki. I am going to see coming. She suddenly announced. Her pussy clenched around my fingers, and she came. Her juices flowed out of her pussy, soaking the bed in my hand. She moaned, her face flushed and her body trembling from the aftershocks of her orgasm. I pulled my hand out and licked her juices from it. Meanwhile, Sako was still enjoying herself. Harder, brother. More. Give me more. She screamed, her breasts bouncing up and down as I fucked her. I complied and fucked her harder and faster, making her scream in pleasure. She was a very vocal person, and it was fun to hear her. Soon enough, her body began to tremble, and she screamed loudly. Coming. I am coming. Brother. Brother. She cried out, her pussy clenching around my member. Her walls squeezed my member, and I felt the urge to come. I thrusted a few more times before I shot my seed inside her, filling her womb with my cum. It's filling me up. Zuko's eyes rolled to the back of her head as she felt the warm sensation of being filled with my semen. She was panting heavily and her breasts were heaving up and down, jiggling sexily. She moaned, her hips still moving on their own. I pulled out and looked at her, a satisfied smile on my face. Hot breath hit my cock as it exited Zuko's drenched pussy. I looked over and saw Miss Shizuka's flushed face near my cock, sticking her tongue out as if she wanted to taste my manhood. You're such a slut, Miss Shizuka. I commented, looking down at her. You want to taste my cock? Foo-fa-foo, yes. It looks so manly and delicious. I want to swallow it whole. She replied, licking her lips. Softly, she kissed the tip of my member and then licked the semen mixed with Zuko's juice. She moaned, her tongue moving along the shaft. Delicious, she looked so damn sexy. Miss Shizuka took the entire thing into her mouth, sucking on it like a popsicle. Her hand moved to her lower lips, messing with them. Her moans were muffled by the cock in her mouth. She closed her eyes and began to move her head, her tongue swirling around the tip of my cock. I groaned as I felt the pleasure, and my cock grew harder. Miss Shizuka noticed that and pulled away, licking her lips. It's ready. She smiled mischievously, opening her pussy with her fingers. Do you want to try this naughty and wet pussy? Chapter 16, Tight or Wet, Both Feels Good. Bonus Chapter 300 PS. I nodded and climbed on top of her, positioning myself between her legs. My cock was already hard and ready, and I pushed it inside her without warning, making her gasp and arch her back. Oh, ooh. So deep. She moaned, her breasts bouncing as I thrust into her. Unlike Zuko's tightness, Miss Shizuka's pussy was loose and wet. But it wasn't a problem. She was also very tight for my size. It felt amazing. And more. More. Faster. Deeper. She cried out, her voice full of lust. I complied and increased my pace, slamming into her harder and faster. She was screaming in pleasure and her body was shaking violently. Wet slapping sounds filled the room as I continued to fuck her. Her breasts were bouncing up and down, her nipples pointing upwards. I couldn't resist and grabbed her boobs, fondling them roughly. So rough. And not there. She screamed, her voice full of lust. I smiled and pinched her nipples, twisting them a bit. My hand couldn't fully hold her boobs, they were too large and soft. Miss Shizuka's body was the best. Her breasts were big and soft, and her waist was thin. Her ass was plump and her hips were wide. Her skin was white and smooth, and she had a nice body odor. I am coming. I am coming. Coming. I am coming too. I replied, increasing my speed. With one final thrust, I shot my load deep inside her. She screamed loudly as she felt the hot semen filling her up. Her walls contracted around my cock, trying to milk every drop of my sperm. She moaned, her eyes half-lidded. After I finished, I pulled out of her and lay between the two girls. Brother. Zuko called, her voice soft and gentle. I love you, brother. I love you too, sis. I replied, pulling her into a hug. We exchanged a kiss and looked at Miss Shizuka, who was panting heavily beside us. Her face was flushed and her body was still shaking from the orgasm. Semen dripped out of her pussy. Maybe the zombie apocalypse wasn't so bad. Ding. You have received 150 shop points plus 1 all stats. Exhausted from all activities and sex, Miss Shizuka fell asleep almost immediately. I covered her with a blanket to prevent her from catching a cold. Brother. Did you enjoy it? Zuko asked, her voice soft and gentle. Yes. It was the best night of my life. I replied, hugging her. We lay there for a while, enjoying each other's warmth. Then, I broke the silence and said what I had in my mind. I will leave to look around tonight. I am worried our voices will attract the zombies' attention. I said, kissing her forehead. Zuko was quiet for a moment, thinking about what I had just said. Finally, she spoke up again. All right. I'll go with you. No. I need you to stay here and protect Miss Shizuka for me. I replied, shaking my head. She's our doctor and lifeline in case we get injured or sick. Are you sure you will be alright alone? I can go with you. You don't have to worry about me, brother. I will be fine. She said, looking at me worriedly. I smiled and kissed her. Don't worry. I'll come back soon. If that's your choice, then I respect it. Protecting a man's pride is a woman's duty. And allowing them to do what they want is our job. Suko said, her eyes filled with determination. Yes. I won't let you down. I'll definitely come back. I replied. I knew she was still worried about me, but she wouldn't stop me. With that, we kissed once more before I stood up from the bed and put my clothes on. I checked my M1A1 and R10, and brought every magazine, strapping them on the vest I found in the closet. 8 magazines, 4 each for both rifles. I slung an R10, which was essentially a modified sniper rifle, on my back and held an M1A1. My sword strapped on my waist, ready to be unsheathed in an emergency. There is a riot shotgun and crossbow in that locker. Use it when you need them. I said to her, pointing at the locker. Suko nodded and got up, hugging me from behind. Her warm breasts pressed against my back, making me feel at ease. I'll be back soon, I said, looking at her over the shoulder. Be careful, she whispered and pecked my lips. We separated and I went out of the bedroom. I carefully scouted the surrounding area through the windows, making sure that the zombies didn't hear our activities earlier. Luckily, there was no zombie in sight. I opened the door and stepped outside. Before I left, I took a glance at the naked beauty waving at me. Such a sight would be a good reward after I come back. With that thought, I closed the door and ventured into the night. Bright light illuminated the bridge near this place. Loud voices, attracting every zombie's attention, came from it. The police officers tried to evacuate everyone. If I remembered correctly, there would be riots coming from panicked construction workers. They would use their heavy machinery to hit the zombies while unintentionally breaching the barricade. To make my goal easier, I need to deal with them. It's better to stop the riot now. I headed to the bridge and looked around to find a vantage point. I didn't plan to show myself directly, that would be stupid. My guns and sword would draw attention and make people attack me. That was something I needed to avoid. After walking for a while, I found a suitable vantage point. A 3-story building with a clear view of the bridge and the barricade. The infected were also scarce in this area, so I could focus on sniping. I went inside and climbed the emergency stairs, going up to the 3rd floor. Then, I went to the balcony and looked around after setting my R10 down. Wow! I exclaimed in surprise, seeing the barricade from here. It was a mess. There were hundreds of infected already. The police officers tried to hold them off, but they were still humans. They couldn't kill them all, especially when the horde kept on growing. Moreover, many survivors were trapped on the bridge, trying to escape the horde of the infected. If I didn't intervene, most of the police officers would be eaten alive. Let's see. Through the scope, I was able to see more clearly. I scanned the area and stopped in surprise. I recognized one group. Boys and girls wearing uniforms I was familiar with. They were the survivors of Fujimi High School. Takashi and his group. Chapter 17, First kill. As expected of the protagonists, they were all in one piece. Even Kaga and Saya were safe. Well, I can't say they are completely useless. The fatty is the reason why the group survived. However, I was pretty surprised when I saw the people trailing behind them. There were other students led by one teacher wearing glasses, Shido Koichi. I remembered him. That teacher was a piece of shit and deserved a death penalty. Oh, he's also here, huh? Following him were 2 girls and 1 boy, one I recognized from the bus group who had had sex with each other. The girls in pigtails and glasses looked pretty innocent, but I guess that bastard of a teacher had broken them. Should I kill that piece of shit? It was a tough decision. He was a piece of shit, but the girls looked at him as if he was their savior. Well, I don't think they will notice someone trying to assassinate him if 1 bullet accidentally went into his head. I will do this as a favor for the protagonist group. I needed to score a goodwill from Saya. That would make my plan easier to conduct. So, I aimed my gun and waited for the opportunity. The police would shoot the zombies soon. If I timed it correctly, I could take him out without anyone noticing. I took a deep breath and steadied my aim. The zombies were getting closer to the barricade, and the police officers were about to fire. I waited for the right moment. Now. Just as the police fired their first shot, I pulled the trigger. The loud bang of the rifle was covered by the gunfire. My aim was perfect, and the bullet went straight through that piece of shit teacher's head, making a hole right between his eyes. His body fell backward as the blood spurted out of his head. Everyone was shocked and began to scream. They didn't understand what happened. It was chaos. People were running and screaming, not knowing what was going on. I didn't care, though. All that mattered was that I had killed that piece of shit and no one saw me. No one even knew where the shot came from. Takashi looked at the teacher's body and immediately gestured for the others to run. His original group, consisting of 4 people including him, jumped past the barricade and managed to secure themselves. Kata played a significant role in protecting Sayo with his nail gun. He was pretty good at shooting, and he was able to hit his target with ease. However, the nail gun was not very powerful, and the infected kept on coming. He was a bit overwhelmed, so I offered a bit of help as a comrade who loved guns. I pulled the trigger and the bullet flew from the silenced barrel. Zoop! A zombie's head exploded into pieces. The fatty's eyes widened and looked around, noticing that the shot came from a different direction from the police. He grinned strangely, seemingly excited about something. He then focused on shooting zombies again. I didn't bother to do more and simply watched as the situation progressed. The construction workers began to move their heavy machinery and bulldozed the zombies. However, their target this time was correct and didn't destroy the barricade. Fueled with rage, the road roller crushed the zombies under its weight, while the crane truck swept them away like trash. Bulldozer plowed through the zombies like it was nothing. Wow, JoJo is really something to survive Dio's road roller attack. I exclaimed in my mind, remembering one masterpiece from my world. Unexpectedly, the remaining Shido's followers were able to survive too. They were pretty lucky. My job here is over. Now, let's set some zombie bait. On my way here, I found some convenience stores. Inside the store, there surely were speakers used to play some music. I planned to create DIY zombie bait using the speakers and car alarm. The speakers were easy to get and there were many cars laying around. As long as the car was not completely destroyed, the battery should still be in good condition. I got what I wanted in no time and set them away from our safe house. I made them easy to set off in an emergency if I shot the wire. Of course, I already calculated my accuracy and put the button in a place that I could easily see from the safe house's balcony. Setting something like this was pretty easy because I had experience creating something like this for fun in my previous life. Once done, I went to the nearby convenience store and took a bunch of food, water, and medicines. The place was a mess, it was probably looted before. But I could still find a few canned foods and some cola. Siko would like them. Only when I put them away in a plastic bag did I return to the safe house. I am back. I entered the house and was greeted by Siko wearing an apron. Underneath it, she wore nothing but a sexy black thong. She held a ladle in her hand and smiled at me. Welcome back. You look so sexy. What's with this getup? Hee, I made some food. It's just a simple stew made with the ingredients I found in the fridge, she said, raising a cucumber in her hand. She licked it seductively as if it was a cock, looking at me with her half-lidded eyes. I promise it will taste good. Siko. You didn't put anything strange in the food, right? I asked her. I didn't want her to do something like in a hentai manga, where she put her love juice in the food to make it special. Of course not. It's unhygienic. She replied with a smile. I sighed in relief and put down the bags I brought from the convenience store. She curiously looked at what I bought and turned at me with wide eyes. No one stopped us to drink that, no? I grinned, just for today. We won't be able to enjoy that in the future. That's true. Let's enjoy ourselves. She replied, returning my smile. Ah, I almost forgot. Please wake Miss Shizuka up. The food will be ready soon. Got it. I nodded and headed to the bedroom. Just like before, she was still sleeping with my semen around her pussy. Some were even dripping onto the bedsheet. And she moaned in her sleep and moved, causing her breasts to jiggle. It was tempting, but I didn't have time for it. I was hungry from all the activities today. So I quickly woke her up, asked her to clean herself, and then joined Siko in the living room. Miss Shizuka joined a while later after getting dressed in a purple turtleneck and shorts. Let's dig in. After eating our dinner, we drank some cola while Miss Shizuka drank beers and enjoyed ourselves. We were having a good time. Not to mention, seeing two beauties drinking was a nice view. Miss Shizuka was a bit drunk, pushing herself onto me because she felt lonely that I was paying more attention to Siko. Not willing to lose, Siko also sat close next to me. As a result, I was once again sandwiched between them, feeling their huge boobs pressing against my body. We talked about our next plan for a bit before heading to bed. There was no need to mention that we slept without clothes. Chapter 18, Car Explosion. Zombie apocalypse was dangerous. The element of danger existed everywhere. For example, the zombies. They were dead people. They were infected and became the undead. They attacked and killed humans. Another danger came from humans themselves. Lack of morale, supplies, and proper equipment to deal with the apocalypse situation caused people to fall into despair. They lost their humanity, attacking and killing each other. Riots and looting were common in this situation. It was worse than the apocalypse in World War Z, to the point that the military had to take action to maintain order. Boom. Night hadn't ended yet, But I was awakened by loud sounds. I immediately opened my eyes and sat up. Suko did the same, and we looked at each other before nodding. Let's check it, I said and began to get dressed. I should have not taken off my clothes. I wore the vest, then slung M1A1 and R10 on my back and used the katana as my main weapon. Suko's uniform had already dried out after airing it in the room, so she wore that as well as the harness I found inside the closet. She put the Ithaca M37 on it and grabbed her wooden sword. All of that took us only a few seconds. I glanced at Miss Shizuka, who was still unaware and sleeping soundly. Let's leave her here. We'll be back, I said to Suko, and we walked to the front door. The sounds came from outside the house. Someone or something was trying to break in. Thud. Thud. I looked outside the window, carefully scanning the area. Zombies gathered outside the street, advancing toward the safe house in large numbers. The sound was the noise they produced when their bodies collided against the house's walls and doors. There were so many of them. What's happened? I muttered. They weren't there before. Where did they come from? They are coming from that direction. See that? There are lights, Suko said and pointed towards the direction from which the zombies came from. I could see some light in the distance, like a fire or something else. Smoke rose in the air. Using the R10's scope, I saw there was a car crashed against a lightning pole. From the condition, it probably exploded upon impact. There were no other cars in the vicinity. The driver must have lost control and crashed. The car was burning, illuminating the dark night. Fortunately, that poor driver died inside the car without turning into one of them. Still, the sound of the explosion was the one that gathered them around here. Did you see something? Suko asked, standing next to me. Yes, a car crash. The driver is dead, I replied without putting down my rifle. Give me a second, I will try to fix this. Instead, I looked in another direction, the place where I prepared my sound trap earlier. I had made it easy to set off with a single shot, and I had the perfect spot to do it without drawing the zombies' attention. I am so glad I set the trap. Placing the barrel on the railing for support, I took a deep breath and aimed. I pulled the trigger and a single bullet flew in the dark. It went through the wire, setting off the trap. The alarm blared loudly, drawing the zombies' attention. I was a bit worried because the sound wasn't too far away from our location, but the zombies were moving away from us. Good. I nodded in satisfaction. That's... Suko was in awe. You are really amazing. You have thought about this beforehand, haven't you? I just wanted to secure our safety in case something happened. I shrugged. I will watch them to make sure they are gone. You can go back to sleep, sis. I know you are still sleepy. No. I will stay with you. You're thinking about investigating that car, aren't you? She shook her head and stood beside me, looking at the zombies moving away. So sharp. I never said anything about that, but she knew it. That's my sister for you. Let's watch for a while, I said and leaned against the wall. Suko did the same. Her shoulder brushed against mine. She was so close. Silence ensued between us. I held the rifle close to me, and Suko leaned against the wall, hugging her wooden sword. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Her chest heaved up and down, her breasts jiggling slightly. Is something bothering you? I suddenly spoke, breaking the silence. You look worried. It's nothing, she replied, not meeting my gaze. Lie. Based on my memories, when we were young, she was the kind of person who tried not to worry others about her problem. Instead, she tried to solve it herself. It was one of her bad habits that I needed to fix. Or I had fixed it when she was attacked in middle school. The backstory was a bit messed up, but that didn't matter. I had no intention to pry if she didn't want to tell me. I believed she would tell me if she was ready. I trusted her. All right. I simply nodded and said no more. We continued to stand there in silence, watching the horde of zombies. The zombies were moving away from the safe house, attracted by the sound of the car alarm. After a few minutes, no zombies roamed around the area. It was at this time that I noticed something. There are people, I said, looking at the group of 3 people getting out from their hiding place. Suko followed my gaze. Ah, you are right. There were 3 men. Based on their uniform and vest, I deduced that they were local police officers from the bridge. They didn't look so good. Their bodies were covered with blood. I wasn't sure if they were bitten, but it didn't seem like they were. They were running, so they weren't zombies. Are we going to help them? She asked, looking at me expectantly. While cold, Suko was also kind. And while I wasn't altruistic, I also didn't plan to keep people away from me. I wanted to help as many people as I could, as long as it wasn't too dangerous for me. The risk of helping these men didn't seem to be too much. The zombies were gone, and we had guns to protect ourselves. Besides, I wanted some information. I wanted to know where the evacuation point was. These people should know about it if they were from the police force. Yes. I nodded and grabbed my katana. Follow my lead. Chapter 19, Meeting People. This time, I left the gun behind so they wouldn't be wary about us. We exited the house and approached them. Hey! I called out and waved my hand, showing off that I wasn't bitten. One of them noticed me and immediately raised his pistol, ready to shoot. However, another man stopped him. Stop it. They are not them. The man with the pistol looked at me suspiciously, but he lowered his weapon. What are you doing here? He asked, his voice filled with suspicion. His eyes went to my waist, looking at the sword. We just ran away across the bridge and didn't know where the evacuation point was. You guys are police, right? Can you guide us to the evacuation point? I replied, telling him a half-truth. If not, we are grateful if you can tell us where the evacuation point is. The three men looked at me, then at each other, then finally at us again. Following that, the man in the middle, seemingly the oldest, stepped forward. There is no need to guide you, young man. Just follow this road to the mall. The police and military set up an evacuation point there. He said, pointing at the road ahead of us. The mall, got it. Thanks, sir. I smiled at him and bowed slightly. We will take our leave, then. Wait. The man who raised his gun at me earlier called, stopping us. I looked at him, wondering what he wanted. Are you two planning to go there? It's too dangerous. He asked. His eyes fell on Siko, who stood quietly beside me. I raised my guard in case he demanded something absurd. There are lots of them there. We barely managed to escape after being overrun. I don't think you will be able to reach the place. Hearing that, I didn't reply immediately. I had to be careful with what I said. I was glad he didn't ask anything absurd. I was ready to beat him up if he did. Are you sure that's the only evacuation point? I asked, is there anywhere else we can go to? Yes. As far as I know, that's the only place. So they didn't know about the Takagi house. I thought as much. Communication had been severed since the outbreak, so it was hard to gather accurate information. The police at the bridge had failed to protect people, so I didn't expect much from them. All right. I nodded and gave him a small smile. Thank you for the information. We'll be on our way. Please be careful on your journey. Hey. Wait a minute. He said, stopping me once again. Because he showed concern, I tried not to get angry and asked him. Is there anything more? That sword, where did you get it? It's too dangerous for a high school boy like you to use that thing. Give it to us adults and I'll protect both of you. I frowned at his demand. No, thank you. We are capable of defending ourselves. The man sighed heavily, shaking his head. It's for your own good. Kids really like to be a hero nowadays. Give the sword to us and we'll protect you too. No, thank you. I have no reason to give my weapon to you. We are leaving now. I said firmly. My grip on the hilt tightened as I felt the need to unsheath it. Don't say I didn't warn you. He said so but didn't try to do anything. I nodded at Suko and we left the scene. That was close. I was ready to slice them if they did something weird. Fortunately, they were sane enough to let us go. We didn't head back immediately but walked around to ensure the three police didn't follow us. Thankfully, they didn't. I guess they were still sane and only tried to act nicely. They weren't the type that would attack us in this situation, but I didn't trust them enough to lower my guard. Do you want to check the car? Tsuko asked, stopping in front of the burned vehicle. I looked at it for a moment before nodding. Sure. There was a chance that there was something valuable inside the car. It was best to check, even if we found nothing. We walked over to the wrecked vehicle. The smell of burnt rubber and plastic was overwhelming. Just like its appearance, everything inside was burnt and charred beyond recognition. The only thing that remained in one piece was the driver's body. Nothing useful here. I commented and turned away. Let's head back. We have to move early in the morning to reach a safe place. Unfortunately, Rika's house wasn't safe enough. It had no one to guard at night and the supply was limited. I had some supplies in our house, but that would be used for emergencies. Using that early in this apocalypse would defeat the purpose of me gathering them in the first place. We had to find a better place, a safe place with a large amount of supplies. Something that could last for months, or even years. First, we have to meet Takagi Suichiro and ask for his cooperation. After Ki left the three police officers, they went to the alley and talked to themselves. Are you sure it's here? The oldest policeman, Ishida, asked his junior. Yes, I am pretty sure. The man with the gun, Takahashi, replied. That was definitely a silenced gunshot, probably a sniper rifle. The muzzle flash was too small for an assault rifle. I see. I didn't notice that. Good job, Takahashi. Ishita praised him. But are you sure it came from this direction? It could have come from anywhere. I have seen a few cases like this in the past. I can tell that the source of the gunshot came from here, Takahashi said confidently. I trust you, Takahashi. The third policeman, Yamazaki, chimed in. You are the best shooter in our police station. Thanks, Yamazaki. Takahashi said with a smile. As a police, we need to secure this gun to protect the civilians. I know that. Ishita nodded and looked around. Will the owner be willing to hand us the gun? I will persuade him. Takahashi replied, tapping his gun. If he's not willing to cooperate, then we will have a little talk. Good. Ishita nodded. Let's move quickly. I want to get there before the sun rises. And so, the police moved carefully. Their destination was a rich neighborhood, at one of the houses. Chapter 20, Confrontation with police officers moving in the dark was foolish. Our visions were impaired and couldn't see well even with a street light. Compared to the zombies that relied on sounds and probably had better hearing, we were at a disadvantage. At least, the zombies were attracted by my trap, giving us time until morning. After checking the car and finding nothing unusual except for the corpse, we returned to the house. As I expected, Miss Shizuka was still sleeping on the bed. Her breasts moved as she breathed and her face looked pretty peaceful. She's not even aware of all the chaos outside. Siko giggled softly and sat on the bed. I don't blame her. Unlike us, she's not training daily. All the physical strain from the apocalypse must have drained her stamina. I commented. Then, I went to the locker to check on all guns and magazines, preparing myself to leave for our next destination. Everything was in a perfect condition. I used 3 bullets for the R10, so I changed the magazines for now. I didn't want to run out of bullets when I needed them the most. When I cleaned the guns and put the important magazines on my vest, Siko tapped my shoulder. Brother, let me maintain your katana. I found this oil in the closet, she said, showing a small bottle of oil. You used it to cut some zombies yesterday. If we don't take care of it, rust will gather and dull its sharpness. I looked at her and nodded. Sure, thank you, sis. I handed over my sword to her and continued my work. It didn't take her long. She was pretty proficient on that. We both maintained our own main weapons in silence, enjoying the process. Somehow I felt at ease when holding a gun like this. Maybe my previous self's will was still too strong. When I held a gun, I felt excited and a thrill ran through my body. And so, we continued until a loud sound disturbed us. Crash. A crashing sound, coming from the first floor, followed by the sound of broken glass. What? Even Miss Shizuka was awakened from the sound. She jumped from the bed, looking confused and scared. What's happening? I immediately put down the gun and put my finger on my lips. SSSH. Don't make a sound. I warned in a low voice, and she nodded. Siko handed me the sword, but I shook my head. She could use it better than me right now, so she could use it. Instead, I took the crossbow and the quivers with 20 arrows with me. I knocked 1 arrow on the crossbow, ready to shoot at any time. Siko prepared herself near the door while Miss Shizuka hid in the closet. Whoever entered, zombies or not, they definitely came with the intention to hurt us. We heard no call or anything at all. Why am I so sure? Because I put some words in the door saying there were people inside. Just ring the bell that I set in the lowest volume if they wanted to talk to us. So whoever came, I wouldn't be merciful. I heard sounds coming from the 2nd floor. One of them shouted, followed by footsteps going up the stairs. Hello? Anyone there? Of course, none of us answered. They were idiots who couldn't even read. If they could, they would have knocked on the door. They're probably armed. I thought. Zombies wouldn't be able to open the door. They would just bash their bodies against it. Let's go to the left side first, they said, their footsteps moving away from the room we were in. When they got closer, I began to recognize their voices. Siko's eyes widened for a second, probably also noticing it. She held the katana tighter. Ah, the police officers from earlier. I am surprised they are here. This doesn't seem good. I sighed inwardly, a bit annoyed at the situation. This is really inconvenient. I don't want to kill anyone in this world.